Chapter 351. Sect Master is in the later stages of the Golden Core realm while Ink Flower and White Bone are in the early stages. How can they not be afraid? Zishang scoffed. Yunjioge was used to being beaten down by Zishang. He ignored his disdain and continued to ask, "Did you see Sect Master's face just now?" Besides finding secret rooms and breaking mechanisms, Zishang was also very good at peeking. "I saw a little, but I'm not sure." Zishang frowned. For some reason, he felt that Sect Master looked like a person. "What did you see? Draw it for me." Yunjioge felt that he had to at least have an idea of what Sect Master looked like. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing if he couldn't recognize him the next time they met. Zishang hesitated for a moment but still drew the portrait of Sect Master. Yunjioge looked at the portrait of Sect Master and almost fainted. "Why did you draw Yin Shirley?" "That Sect Master looks like Yin Shirley," Zishang said. "Impossible." Yunjioge denied flatly. Yin Shirley was an unambitious little steward of the outer sect who only wanted to reunite with his family. How could he be related to the mighty Lord Sect Master? This was simply too ridiculous. Zishang didn't explain further. Whether it was or not, there would be a chance to verify it in the future. Anyway, with him around, Xiaojioge wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Just then, the ground under Yunjioge's feet flashed yellow and treasure-seeking scorpion appeared. It waved its two pincers excitedly and shouted, "Master, Master, I found a super good place. It's at the mountainside. Let's go take a look." Yunjioge immediately followed treasure-seeking scorpion to the mountainside excitedly. There were weeds in front of them and it was extremely desolate. There wasn't a single cave abode nearby. It was really a good place to settle down. "Dig down from here and you'll find a spirit vein." Treasure-seeking scorpion pointed to the ground. "Spirit vein? Don't tell me it's the spirit vein of Sect Master Peak." Yunjioge frowned. This was public property and she couldn't do anything to it. No, this spirit vein is very small. It's just a branch." Treasure-seeking scorpion wasn't stupid. Why would it dig a hole for its master? Moreover, those thick, big, and good spirit veins were all occupied by others. It was impossible to go there even if it wanted to. "That's good." Yunjioge was completely relieved. He took out his bone spur and dug in the direction that the treasure-seeking scorpion had pointed. The hard and dry cave wall in front of him was as soft as tofu in front of the bone spikes. It was as easy as blowing off dust. Yunjioge quickly dug out a passageway. When he sensed the dense spiritual energy, he immediately decided to stay there. She first installed the wooden door before setting up a defensive formation with Zishang. Finally, she hung up Yunjio's name tag, officially declaring that this place belonged to her. After Yunjioge fixed the lintel, he continued to build his little nest. She widened and enlarged the front chamber to serve as an antechamber for visitors. Then, he dug out 4 ear chambers at the back, which were used as a quiet room, a bedroom, an alchemy room, and a spirit pet room. The meditation room, bedroom, and alchemy room were all very simple, but she had to spend a lot of effort to decorate the spiritual pet room. First, he divided the room into 3 separate rooms, then covered them with soft cotton wool and planted different kinds of beautiful flowers to decorate them. Finally, he put the treasure-seeking scorpion couple, Pippi Mouse, and the insect cocoon made by the little mother goo into these 3 separate rooms. After eating the pearl fish's inner core, the female scorpion's body became fatter again, from the size of 3 fingers to the size of a palm. The originally light purple carapace now had a little colorful pattern, which would reflect a faint colorful light in places where the sun was strong. It was very beautiful. "Wife, this is the place that Master arranged. Do you like it?" the treasure-seeking scorpion said to his wife. Although it had also gained a lot of weight during this time, it looked a little petite next to the sturdy female scorpion, but it didn't care at all. Whenever there was something delicious to eat or drink, it would give it to his wife first. After the scorpion was full, he would start to eat the leftovers. However, the female scorpion would leave a lot of leftovers every time. I like it. It's so beautiful. The female scorpion crawled inside and circled a few times, reluctant to come out. However, what it liked the most was the scorpion grass at the entrance of the cave. That was the spiritual grass that accompanied the scorpion nest, and it was also the smell that it had smelled since it was young. It was at ease and comfortable, and it couldn't be any better. As long as you like it. The treasure-seeking scorpion was also very satisfied with this nest, and it felt even more certain that it had followed the right master. Especially after Yunjioga gave them a bottle of cherry pills in the name of celebrating the housewarming, the husband and wife were so excited that they shed tears of gratitude. They said that they must hurry up and make scorpions, so that they wouldn't let down their master's expectations of them. You can't rush things like giving birth. You are still young, so don't be anxious. Let fate decide. Yunjioga comforted them kindly. Master. The husband and wife and the two scorpions were even more moved. They hooked their tails together, looking like they couldn't wait to make little scorpions right away. Yunjioga faked 2 coughs and tactfully retreated. When Yunjioga left the spirit pet room, she didn't expect to see Zishang standing behind her when she turned around. She didn't know what he was thinking, but he was extremely lost in thought. What are you doing here? You can't be peeking at them making little scorpions, right? Yunjioga looked at him with disdain, as if she didn't expect him to be such a demon. I can make little demons myself, why do I need to peek at them? Zishang came back to his senses. He blinked his eyes, and the spring light shone in all directions. He had a flirtatious look again. Hee, then do your best. Yunjioga patted Zishang's shoulder and went to the quiet room to prepare to meditate and cultivate. Before the news of the poison in her dantian came, Zishang could only hold back his dual cultivation. If the essence couldn't come out, where would she go to make little demons? So if Zishang wanted to, he could only do his best. Zishang wasn't annoyed. He followed Yunjioga to the quiet room and accompanied her to watch her cultivate. A few days after Yunjioga opened her cave, the omnipotent little fatty came to her door. How did you know that I live here? Yunjioga was really shocked and she saw little fatty at the door. My uncle told me. He has already recorded your cave abode. Little fatty huffed heavily with his hands on his knees. His face was covered in sweat. An outer sect disciple like him couldn't use the God Strider talisman at the sect peak. He could only walk up step by step. He was almost exhausted to death. Yunjioga didn't know that Jin Chuan would record her cave abode. But even so, Jin Chuan still hated it. But little fatty's words were really cute. Therefore, Yunjioga warmly invited little fatty in as a guest. Senior brother Yunjio, your place is amazing. Little fatty looked at the spacious and clean cave abode before him with a face full of admiration. A chi refinement cultivator could enjoy such treatment. Even the sect master's own son didn't have it. Why are you looking for me today? Yunjioga poured a cup of hot tea for little fatty. Little fatty picked it up and took a sip. Then, he told Yunjioga something very seriously. Chapter 352. The Lu sisters have been sent back to the Lu family? Yunjioga was shocked when he heard the news. Why did they send him out all of a sudden? Moreover, he was a good seedling who had been through the trial in a small mystic realm. Elder Amo Hua gave the order. Little fatty sighed. It's true that when the gods fight, the mortals suffer. Now, the disciples of the second peak are having a hard time. They're being ostracized everywhere. Even when they go to take on missions, they're always met with all sorts of difficulties. It was fine for him and Ice Lotus to have someone protecting them in the inner sect, but the normal disciples were the ones who were being bullied. However, they still hugged each other even tighter. Elder Amo Hua and Elder White Bones have really put a lot of thought into this. Yunjioga sneered. She knew that the two elders hated her, but she didn't expect it to be to this extent that they wouldn't even let the small fries of Peak 2 off. They were probably doing this to incite the disciples of Mountain Number 2 to feel that they were implicated by her. When these disciples of Peak Number 2 joined the inner sect, they would definitely use all their means to target her. Her days would not be easy. Fortunately, Yunjioga did not intend to stay in the Encorp sect forever. Actually, the people of Peak 2 have discussed it privately. We definitely can't go to Ink Flower Peak and Whitebone Peak. Enemy Peak isn't a good place either. In the end, we can only follow you to Sect Master Peak, Little Fatty said carefully to Yunjioga. Are you sure you didn't come here on your own? Yunjioga couldn't help but glance at Little Fatty. This guy had an uncle who was a steward at the Sect Lord Peak, so he would definitely come to the Sect Lord Peak. However, the Sect Leader Peak was just too desolate. They were on the verge of defeat, and now Little Fatty had pulled in a large group of disciples. It was hard to say what would happen in the future, but it was definitely beneficial for Little Fatty. I will definitely come. However, it is all thanks to senior brother Yunjio that I was able to convince them, Little Fatty said with a chuckle. Yunjioga's performance in the small mysterious realm was obvious to everyone. She was calm and resourceful, and the rarest thing was that she was broad-minded. She was able to unite the low-level disciples instead of using them as cannon fodder. The people from the second peak all felt that they would definitely be able to make a living if they followed her. It was better than going to the other peaks and being trampled on. Forget it. Giving me face is more like giving him face. Yunjioga raised his index finger and pointed to his left. Purple Deceased Sword very cooperatively revealed himself, and then gradually disappeared. Little Fatty's eyes lit up and his excited voice began to tremble. This is your life source Encorpse. Yes, 1,000-year-old one. Yunjioga kindly added. Little Fatty was even more excited. 1,000-year living corpse was a heavenly treasure that could challenge 3 Gene Dan stage elders. The Encorpse sect had been around for so many years, but only 3 people had obtained Encorpses and all of them had become powerful people. Senior brother Yunjio is still so young, but he has already reached this level. His future is limitless, and following him is definitely the right choice. Yunjioga waited for Fatty to calm down before asking with dissatisfaction, why does your uncle always target me? No, my uncle is just that kind of person. He treats me the same way. Little Fatty quickly denied, afraid that his future boss would have a conflict with his uncle. Even to you? What, don't you guys have a good relationship? Yunjioga was trying to get information out of him. Before I was born, my uncle went out to travel. He only came back to see us 2 years ago. Afterwards, he said that my aptitude was not bad, so he let me come to the Encorp sect. Normally, other than asking him for information and going out to buy and sell, I rarely contact him. Little Fatty said honestly. Yunjioga thought of Jinchuan's gloomy personality and his serious expression. He couldn't tell that he was a person who loved to buy and sell information, unless he had other plans. Little Fatty didn't want to talk about his uncle anymore, so he changed the topic. That's right, senior brother Yunjio. I heard that you cured Sister Yue? Yes. Yunjioga faintly smiled and casually said, your uncle also told me about this before. It seems like he is very interested in Sister Yue, but these two are quite a good match. Senior brother Yunjio, don't joke around. How could my uncle be interested in Sister Yue? He hates fickle and shameless women the most. Little Fatty laughed out loud. Every time Yue took in a male pet, his uncle would look like he wanted to kill someone. Good thing your uncle didn't go to the Joyous Union sect, or else he would have died from anger. Yunjioga also laughed. Using his body to cure the poison of the woman he hated the most, this Jinchuan must have some secrets. That's right. Little Fatty also thought that his uncle was very funny. He was in an evil sect, but he still asked female disciples to be clean. Wasn't that against the sect rules? Yunjioga chatted with Little Fatty for a while longer, and after he found out the time and route that the Lu sisters would be escorted back, he sent him away. Do you want to save the 2 sisters? Zi Shang, who had been listening on the side, appeared and asked Yunjioga. No matter what, they were dragged into this by me. If I can save them, then I will. Yunjioga indeed wanted to save the Lu sisters. All right. As long as it was what Yunjioga wanted, he would satisfy it, let alone such a small matter. It was dusk, and the dim yellow sun shone on the earth. On the rugged and steep mountain road, a large carriage with a spirit-sealing talisman stuck on it sped along. The old carriage driver, who had white sideburns and sallow skin, flicked his whip from time to time, directing the single-horned spirit horse to change direction. Beside the carriage were two middle-aged men at the peak of the Qi refinement stage. They were both from the Lu family branch, and they were here to escort the Lu sisters back. The short one with drooping eyebrows was called Lu Yongfu. The tall one with a shrewd face was called Lu Yonggue. It's getting dark, let's find a place to rest. Lu Yongfu rode the spirit horse to the old carriage driver's side and shouted. Master said we should try to get back within 5 days. The old carriage driver said awkwardly. If they did not ride at night, they would probably be delayed for a few more days. Are you stupid? Master only said try, not for sure. When the time comes, we can just find an excuse. Lu Yongfu looked impatient. He was at the peak of the Qi refinement stage, 5 realms higher than the old carriage driver, so he did not take him seriously at all. The old carriage driver was still a bit hesitant. Lu Yonggue ran over and advised, old friend, listen to us. Later, find a place to settle down, and we'll let you enjoy it first. Enjoy? The old carriage driver was confused. He did not know what there was to enjoy in this wilderness. Idiot, you still don't understand. Lu Yongfu pointed at the carriage with the spirit-sealing talisman, and said lecherously, 2 beauties for you to play with first, isn't that enjoying? The old carriage driver was shocked, and hurriedly said, but this is the eldest and second miss of the family. Chapter 353. That's why it's so exciting. Lu Yongfu's eyes shone with a wretched light, looking like he couldn't wait. But the old driver couldn't help but swallow his saliva. He was obviously tempted, but he was still a little hesitant. Don't worry, who doesn't know that eldest miss and second miss were sent by the patriarch to be cauldrons of the evil sect? They've been played to death over the years. The 3 of us are straightforward, the patriarch won't say anything if he knows. Lu Yonggue encouraged. That's right, I heard that the patriarch plans to send them to the furnace yard. In the future, they'll be able to kill tens of thousands of people. Let's just treat it as opening business for them. Lu Yongfu laughed. All right. The old driver was quickly convinced. He had seen how the Lu sisters were taken into the carriage. If they went back, they would probably be sent to a brothel to be cauldrons, just like what those 2 guys said. Thinking about it this way, playing around was not a big deal. Moreover, when he thought about the high and mighty eldest miss and second miss being humiliated by a lowly driver like him, he was extremely excited. He immediately commanded the carriage to run towards the forest not far away. Inside the carriage, the Lu sisters who had been fed the paralysis medicine looked very miserable. Their hair was messy, their clothes were messy, their hands were tied behind their backs with a red rope, and their legs were also tightly bound. The most humiliating and hateful thing was that there was a black dog collar around their necks. It was chained to the head of the spirit-locking spell. Sister, just listen to me this once. Lu Tian'er looked at Lu Mei pleadingly. You don't need to say anything, I won't agree. Lu Mei was indifferent to her sister's pleading. But if this goes on, we'll all die. Lu Tian'er's suppressed voice was full of pain. She had the netherworld Dao body. In the Yin Corpse sect, apart from cultivating the outer techniques, she had also secretly cultivated in the direction of a living corpse. She was worried that today's situation would happen again. The only way now was to die. As long as she died, she could directly turn into a living corpse and help her sister kill their way out. Do you think I can live in peace if you die? No one is allowed to give up until the last moment. Lu Mei gritted her teeth. She was already ruined, so she absolutely could not watch her sister walk on the road to death. Sister. Lu Tian'er sighed, knowing that her sister would not give in. Anyway, her nether ghost aura could be activated at any time. She would just wait with her sister until the last moment. At this moment, the carriage suddenly stopped, and the tightly shut door opened, revealing a wretched and disgusting face. Eldest miss, second miss, staying here must be very uncomfortable, right? This little one will immediately come to serve you. I guarantee that you will have a great time, Lu Yongfu said with a smile. Pa, who do you think you are? How dare you offend your superiors? Aren't you afraid that your uncle will kill you? Lu Mei raised her eyebrows, her expression extremely fierce. Bitch, why don't you take a look at your current situation? You still dare to act mighty in front of me? Lu Yongfu stretched out his hand and pulled the iron chain. Lu Mei's neck was strangled tightly, and her face immediately turned green. Let go of my sister. Lu Tian'er was so angry that her eyes turned red. She wanted to rush over, but she was restrained by the dog leash, which made a rattling sound. Bitch, serve me well and I will make you feel better. Otherwise, I will make you suffer. Lu Yongfu turned his hand and slapped Lu Tian'er's face to one side, leaving a bright red palm print on her white face. All right, Yongfu, be gentle. No matter what, she is still the eldest and second miss of the Lu clan. You have to give her some face. Lu Yonggui came up to persuade him hypocritically. Lu Yongfu then let go of the iron chain in his hand. Looking at the bruise on Lu Mei's neck, his heart was indescribably satisfied and refreshed. He could not wait to add a few more marks on her body. Didn't you say that you would let me enjoy first? The old carriage driver squeezed in and looked at the Lu sisters greedily. Can you go on too? All right, you pick one first. Us two brothers will play with the other one. We will exchange later. Lu Yongfu said with a smile. All right, then I will pick second miss. The old carriage driver could not wait to climb into the carriage and pounce on Lu Tian'er. The other two snickered as they surrounded Lu Mei. The carriage became crowded with 3 men at once, and there was even a sweaty smell. Lu Mei bit her lips tightly. Her eyes were about to bleed, but she had no way to resist. It was just like when she was thrown to the evil old monster. However, at that time, the evil old monster was in the late stage of foundation establishment. After all, he was a character. He had plucked tens of thousands of girls, so the two sisters were nothing. Occasionally, when the old monster was in a good mood, he would even give them pointers in cultivation. But now, these 3 pieces of trash were nothing. They were lowly people who were not even fit to carry shoes for the two sisters in the Lu clan. How dare they bully them? They deserved to die 10,000 times. Lu Tian'er stared at the old carriage driver. Her black eyes were burning with a cold flame. She was like a devil that crawled out of hell, and her whole body was emitting a terrifying aura. The old carriage driver was frightened by her gaze. He could not help but take a few steps back and bumped into the back of the other two. I say, old Tai, you're really too much of a coward. You don't even dare to touch a little girl whose spiritual power is sealed. It's better to stay on the side and come back after we've had our fun. Lu Yongfu scolded as he pushed the old carriage driver aside and walked towards Lu Tian'er. When he saw Lu Tian'er's terrifying gaze, his heart felt stifled, but he immediately slapped her and scolded, "What are you looking at? Do you believe that I won't dig your eyes out?" The flame in Lu Tian'er's eyes burned brighter and brighter. The ghost energy that had accumulated near her heart slowly exploded. She was about to be ignited and turned into a living corpse. At this moment, a cold voice sounded from outside the carriage. "Io, it's so lively here." The old carriage driver was shocked and quickly jumped out of the carriage. Lu Yongfu and Lu Yonggui also followed out and found that the defensive formation they had set up was trampled to pieces. A youth with red eyes and purple lips, who was a Qi disciple level 5, was standing in the middle and looking at them with interest. Brat, I advise you to mind your own business. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Lu Yongfu found that the youth in front of him was only at Chi disciple level 5. He immediately let out a sigh of relief and fiercely shouted. Lu Yonggui was much more careful than him. He carefully looked at the youth in front of him and faintly guessed that he was a disciple of the En Corp sect. He put on a smile and said, "Little brother, you also came because of the fragrance, right? You really know what's good for you. These two sisters are top quality goods. Now that they are under the spirit locking curse, we can do whatever we want with them. If you want to join in, it won't be difficult. You can come once for 600 spirit jades." Lu Yonggui actually sold the Lu sisters as cultivation furnaces on the spot. Chapter 354. Lu Yongfu immediately understood Lu Yonggui's meaning. With a wretched smile, he said, "Little brother, don't think that it's expensive. They are two sisters, and each of them is only worth 300 spirit jades. It's even cheaper than a roadside brothel. If you miss this village, there won't be another one. A business without any capital. You guys are smart." Yunjioga chuckled. The bloodthirsty bone spike silently emerged from the shadows of the carriage and flew towards Lu Yongfu with a red light. Lu Yongfu's nerves were stretched taut. He quickly raised a red defensive barrier, but it was instantly pierced through by the bloodthirsty bone spike. Lu Yonggui's complexion changed, and he quickly patted a few defensive charms on his body. However, before the defensive charm could light up, the bloodthirsty bone spike pierced through his chest and he collapsed to the ground. The old driver was so frightened that he collapsed to the ground, staring at Yunjioga as if he had seen a ghost. They were both at Chi Disciple Stage 5, but that youth's bone spear was able to instantly kill two Chi Disciple Great Circle cultivators. This was simply unbelievable. Yunjioga did not attack the old carriage driver. Instead, he commanded the bone spears to destroy all the spirit-locking curses outside the carriage. The Lu sisters' spiritual power returned to their bodies, and they immediately broke free of their bindings and rushed out of the carriage. Senior brother Yunjio. Lu Tianer's expression was emotional, and her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect that this senior brother would come and save them when they were at their most heartbroken and despairing. "I'm late. Are you guys alright?" Yunjioga looked at the two sisters with a guilty expression. "We're fine." Lu Mei shook her head. Lu Tianer looked at the two corpses on the ground and said fiercely, "Do you think you'll be at ease after you die? Watch how I'll deal with you." With that, she took out two red paper men and stuck them on their bodies. The two red paper dolls slowly lifted up as if they were pulling something. Finally, they forcefully pulled out Lu Yonggui and Lu Yongfu's souls and locked them onto the red paper dolls. Lu Tianer kept the red paper dolls and began to draw soul-imprisoning talismans on them. She would torture them when she had time in the future. Lu Mei, on the other hand, went to search the two people's storage pouches and took back her own storage pouch. "What do you plan to do with that person?" Yunjioga gestured for the Lu sisters to look at the old coachman. "First miss, second miss, I was forced to do this. They said that if I didn't do as they said, they would kill me. I definitely didn't mean it." The old coachman cried and knelt on the ground to beg for mercy. "Since that's the case, you can go to the underworld and settle the score with them." Lu Mei revealed a sinister smile. However, she did not take out her bone spear. Instead, she took out a red doll from her storage pouch. The doll had hands and feet, and its hair was black and glossy. The joints of its fingers were distinct, and the workmanship was very exquisite. The strange thing was that there were no eyebrows, eyes, or nose on that round face, only a small cherry red mouth, as if it was smeared with blood. "Good boy, go and avenge your sister." Lu Mei had a gentle yet strange smile on her face. She stroked the doll's shiny hair and put it on the ground. The rag doll wobbled its way towards the old coachman. "First miss, spare me, spare me." The old coachman's begging voice suddenly stopped as he fell down with wide eyes filled with fear. The red doll lay on his neck, revealing the sharp teeth in its small cherry red mouth. It bit into the old coachman's throat and sucked large mouthfuls of blood. Corpse doll, this one of yours is quite special. But this kind of special corpse could only be refined by the Lu sisters. Senior brother Yunjiu overpraises me. Lu Mei smiled. After ordering the corpse doll to suck the old coachman dry, it went to suck the other two that had just died. What do you plan on doing in the future? Yunjioga asked about serious matters. We'll talk after we leave this place. Lu Mei had a blank look on her face. She had the mark of a lowly slave on her body. Without the corpse sex array, she could not escape the Lu family's pursuit. They could find her at any time. Does senior brother Yunjiu have any suggestions? Lu Tian put away the red paper man and looked at Yunjioga with a face full of expectation. After eating and drinking its fill, the corpse doll jumped onto her shoulder and tilted its head as it looked at Yunjioga. No. Yunjioga honestly shook her head. She was not familiar with this place, so she did not have any good suggestions. The Lu sisters' faces instantly dimmed. They could not go back to the corpse sect. If they went to another evil sect, there was a chance that they would be sent back. At that time, it would be hard to sneak away. Their spirit energy would be sealed by the sect and they would be given to others. That would be even worse. No matter what, we have to thank senior brother Yunjiu for saving our lives. If we have the chance, we will definitely repay you. Lu Mei forced herself to smile and said, there's no need to repay me, as long as you live well. Yunjioga waved her hand. She was only here to repay her debt. The Lu sisters became even more sad. Senior brother Yunjiu was so strong, how could they repay him? It was all just empty words. It's getting late, you should leave now. Yunjioga saw Zishang's impatient expression and prepared to leave. Senior brother Yunjiu, I have something to ask of you. Lu Tian quickly said. Say it. After this separation, it would be difficult to meet again, so Yunjioga was quite easy to talk to. Senior brother Yunjiu, since you are so good at alchemy, can you help my sister refine a pill that can cover the mark? Lu Tian mustered up her courage and asked. Cover what mark? Yunjioga asked. The mark of a lowly slave. I have already been given to the evil old monster as a cauldron. He left a mark on my back. Lu Mei said before her sister could speak. Let me see. Yunjioga was expressionless. He did not look down on Lu Mei because of this, nor did he feel any sympathy. It was a very normal look. Lu Mei could not help but let out a sigh of relief. Although she had been trampled all these years, she still did not want to lose face in front of this senior brother. Here. Lu Tian did not think too much and pulled her sister's clothes to the left, revealing a dark red mark. The words lowly slave could be clearly seen. Yunjioga walked up to take a closer look and found that this mark was also a dark spirit talisman. It used the words lowly slave to drill into Lu Mei's bone marrow. The person who made the mark could then use this to determine where she said she was. This mark is made by a dark spirit talisman. No pill can cover it. Yunjioga shook his head. Even if he made a pill, it would only be able to cover it temporarily. Lu Tian was indescribably disappointed. Lu Mei was already used to facing disappointment. She even comforted her sister, it's okay. At most, we will leave the boundless mountains. I heard that the Zhongzhou is a good place. Let's find a place to cultivate and come back for revenge. Okay. Lu Tian nodded. The Zhongzhou mountain was a place where evil, and righteous sects intersected. It was a very chaotic place. With the two sisters' current cultivation, it would be very dangerous. But as long as they could be with their sister, nothing else mattered. I only said that no pill can cover this mark. I did not say that it can't be removed. Yunjioga felt that these two sisters were too pessimistic. They did not wait for him to finish speaking. It was not a good habit. Chapter 355. Senior Yunjio, can you really help my sister remove the mark? Lu Tian'er's eyes lit up. Could it be that Yunjio was going to send out his 1,000-year zombie? But this 1,000-year zombie was not easy to talk to. How did Yunjio convince him? This brand has already penetrated deep into your bones. If you want to completely remove it, you have to cleanse this part of your marrow and bones. The process will be very painful. Can you endure it? There was no need for Zishang to do such a small thing. Yunjioga could do it himself. It was just that the process was a bit bloody and painful. It was up to Lu Mei, whether she was willing or not. I can bear it. Lu Mei said without hesitation. As long as she could get rid of this slave identity, she was not afraid of any pain. Alright, let's find a safe place to start. Yunjiogu could not leave the sect leader's peak for too long. Okay. The two sisters nodded. After burning all the traces, they left with Yunjiogu. Yunjiogu found a random cave and cleaned it up to make a simple stone bed. He then let Zishan take a look outside. Take off your clothes and lie down on the stone bed. Yunjioga said to Lu Mei, as he prepared the spirit grass and medicinal ingredients. Lu Mei, did not argue. She took off her shirt and wore only a pair of white underwear before lying on the stone bed. The gray stone bed, white skin, and crisscrossed red scars created a beautiful atmosphere. Any normal man would definitely be attracted. Unfortunately, Yunjiogu was not in the mood to appreciate it. He was completely focused on concocting the medicine. Lu Tian'er nervously waited by the side. She looked at her sister and then at Yunjiogu. Use this medicine to wash your sister's back. Yunjiogu concocted a bottle of light blue medicine and gave it to Lu Tian'er. What is it used for? Lu Tian'er could not help but ask. It's used for clearing heat and detoxifying sewage. Quickly apply it on her. Yunjiogu said without turning his head and poured the medicine into a small bowl. I'll apply it now. Lu Tian'er saw that Yunjiogu was busy and did not dare to ask anymore. She quickly took a white cloth and dipped it in the medicine before applying it carefully. Lu Mei could clearly feel the cold medicinal liquid spread over her body, bringing with it a taste similar to strong alcohol. After Lu Tian'er had applied the medicine carefully, Yunjioga put down the small bowl and walked over. She gestured a few times above Lu Mei's brand, then said to the two sisters, later on, I will first destroy this brand's talisman pattern, then force out its incantation source. Your sister's current cultivation is still not enough. When the time comes, I will need your help. Then what should I do? Lu Tian'er asked nervously. Just grab her feet and listen to my command. When I say charge, both of you have to force the source of the curse out at the same time. It's similar to how we caught the Een moths earlier. Yunjioga was confident in the twins' teamwork. Okay, I got it. Lu Tian'er immediately walked behind her sister and reached out to grab her feet. She aimed her palm at the Yongquan acupuncture point. There's no need to rush. There'll be at least 2 more hours before it starts. You should meditate and rest first. After that, recover your spiritual power, Yunjioga said. Just now, Lu Tian'er had the thought of risking her life, so her heart meridians were a little chaotic. She needed to adjust her breathing. Okay. Lu Tian'er also knew that her body's condition was not good, so she obediently sat in a corner to recuperate. Yunjioga took out the thunder fire needle and began to destroy the Een spirit talisman. Thanks to Zishang's advice, Yunjioga's understanding of talisman patterns had become much deeper. He had also studied the Een spirit talisman patterns thoroughly. After all, Een spirit talisman patterns were the most abundant in Een spirit talisman patterns in the Een Corp sect. The Een spirit talisman brand in front of him had a total of 108 meridians. Only by destroying them one by one in order would he be able to find the deepest incantation source. That was the key to removing the brand. Yunjioga calmed his mind. After confirming his target, the thunder fire needle immediately descended. The first meridian was destroyed with a bang, releasing a faint gray yin qi. Then the second meridian, third, fourth. In the beginning, the meridians were still very clear. After the 50th meridian, a thick gray shrouded the entire brand, making it impossible to see anything clearly. Fortunately, these meridians did not move. Yunjioga relied on his amazing memory to destroy all 108 meridians. After the gray qi dissipated, the thumb-sized incantation source was revealed. The gray qi was like a slug, tightly glued to Lu Mei's bones. The countless tentacle-like things under its body had already fused with the bone marrow. Charge! Yunjioga ordered. Lu Tian'er, who had already woken up, grabbed onto her sister's foot. The moment she heard the order, she poured all of her spiritual energy into the slug and rushed towards the shoulder along with her sister's spiritual energy. The slug moved slightly and unwillingly floated up a little. The tentacles pulled on Lu Mei's bone marrow and pulled it up. Lu Mei was in so much pain that she broke out in cold sweat. Her fingers gripped the stone bed tightly, but she did not dare to say a word. Continue. Yunjioga focused all his attention on the slug's movements and ordered the Lu sisters to continue without a trace of politeness. Lu Mei was in so much pain that her face was covered in sweat. Her nails were deeply dug into the stone bed, but there was no reaction. Her consciousness became more and more blurry, and the circulation of her spiritual energy also slowed down. Senior Yunjio, my sister can't hold on any longer. What should we do? Lu Tian'er's heart ached when she saw her sister's blood-stained fingers. The amount of spiritual energy she poured into the slug also decreased. You have to hold on even if you can't, unless you want her to carry the mark of this lowly slave for the rest of her life. Yunjioga's tone was ruthless, but his eyes didn't even blink as he observed the slug. At this time, the slug had completely floated up, and more than half of its tentacles had been forced out. There was no way it could retreat at this critical moment. Sister, bear with it. It'll be fine once it's forced out. In the end, Lu Tian'er hardened her heart and poured more spiritual energy into her sister's body. Lu Mei felt as if a small knife was scraping her bone marrow. The pain was so excruciating that her limbs began to violently twitch. Hold on a little longer. It'll be fine soon. Yunjioga firmly held on to Lu Mei. The slug had completely floated up, and only the thickest tentacle was stubbornly holding on. Yunjioga picked up the thunderfire needle and quickly plucked out the last tentacle. The slug completely lost its host and flew out like lightning. Just as Yunjioga was about to grab it, he heard Lu Mei scream. The spiritual energy in her body instantly collapsed, and she fainted on the bed. Even her heart stopped beating. Sister! Lu Tian'er screamed and hurriedly rushed over to check on her condition. Move, don't be a hindrance. Yunjioga couldn't care less about grabbing the slug. He hurriedly flipped Lu Mei over, and the thunderfire needle instantly landed on her heart. He made a hand seal and formed a small lightning bolt. Chapter 356. Purple lightning followed the needle and hit Lu Mei's chest. Her body bounced up and down, and after a few times, her heart finally started beating again. Sister, wake up. Lu Tian'er patted her sister's face, tears streaming down her face. Give her this pill, she'll wake up in a bit. Yunjioga hurriedly threw down a pill and chased after her. If they couldn't catch the caterpillar, it would run back into Lu Mei's body and become a brand again. However, outside the door was a vast field. There was nothing around, and the caterpillar had long since disappeared. Are you looking for this? Zi Shang appeared in front of her, his slender fingers pinching a gray slug. Zi Shang, you're really amazing. I knew with you here, there would be no problems. Yunjioga forgot how cold she was when she sent Zishang to guard the door and smiled innocently. As long as you know. Zishang glanced at her and returned the slug to Yunjioga. Yunjioga wrapped it with spiritual power and hurriedly returned to the cave. Zishang tactfully continued to guard the door. At this time, Lu Mei had already woken up, but she was still lying on the stone bed. No need to lie down, quickly put on your clothes and come deal with the curse. Yunjioga put the slug in a small bowl he prepared. The small bowl was filled with the translucent liquid refined from a spiritual treasure. The slug struggled desperately to leave, but it was as if it had fallen into a swamp and couldn't move. Lu Mei casually put on her clothes and asked Yunjioga, "How do I deal with this?" "Put 2 drops of blood in it, and it will be completely devoured within 3 days. Then you can find the person who put the curse on you," Yunjioga explained. "How far is it?" Lu Mei asked while dripping blood. "I can sense his location within 300 miles. This distance was enough for them to escape." "Sister, this is great. We don't have to be afraid of that evil old monster coming to catch us anymore." Lu Tian was overjoyed. The Lu family only had one foundation establishment cultivator, and he wouldn't lower himself to kill the 2 sisters. Only that evil old monster in the middle stage of foundation establishment had been eyeing them covetously. Now that he had this location, he could avoid him in advance. "Thank you, senior brother Yunjio." Lu Mei carefully put away the small bowl and bowed to Yunjioga. "We sisters will repay the great kindness you have shown us in the future even if we have to work like an ox or a horse." Lu Tianer followed her sister's example and bowed to Yunjioga thrice. Yunjioga didn't avoid it. Although these things were nothing to her, it was like giving a new lease of life to these 2 sisters. It wasn't too much to accept their 3 kowtows. "Since you're fine, I'm relieved." "Oh right, this is the bill for the removal of the brand. It's all the cost price. Take a look and see when you can return it." Yunjioga recorded all the materials needed to remove the brand on the spot and wrote the prices neatly behind them. She had bought those materials with her own money. Of course, she had to pay for them. It was already very kind of her not to charge any medical fees or surgery fees. The Lu sisters had been with Yunjioga for a long time and understood her personality very well. They didn't think there was anything wrong with this. However, after the 2 of them looked at the bill, their faces turned pale. Just the flowers and spirit herbs were worth tens of thousands of spirit jades. The other things were also worth 3,000 to 4,000 spirit jades. How could the 2 sisters take out such a sum of money right now? "Senior brother Yunjio, we don't have money right now. Can we put it on the bill first and return it later?" Lu Tianer asked pitifully. "Give me whatever you have. We can owe the rest for now." Yunjioga was quite easy to talk to. At least, she didn't plan on emptying the 2 sisters' savings. However, rules were rules. There was no reason to make them pay for nothing. The Lu sisters had stayed in the Een Corpse sect for more than half a year. They spent all their time cultivating. The little spirit jades they had saved were not even enough. It was useless even if they took it out. Most importantly, they had no one to rely on. If they gave away all their savings, they wouldn't even be able to support themselves in the future. "Sister, didn't you say that father left something for us? See if there's anything we can use to repay the debt." Lu Tianer pulled on her sister's sleeve and gave her a look. Lu Mei immediately understood. Before their father died, he left a secret letter for the 2 sisters. He said that he found a ruin of evil cultivators in the central state. He told the 2 sisters to go there when they had the ability. That was why she said she wanted to go to the central state. This was their last resort. What if senior brother Yunjio became greedy after seeing the money? She didn't dare to take such a risk. Although senior brother is kind, we can't always let him work for free. Lu Tianer gave her sister another look. The central state was very dangerous. It was too dangerous for the 2 sisters to go alone. Even if there really was something good in the ruin, it was not something they could think about. It was better to give it to senior brother Yunjio as a way to repay him for saving their lives. Senior brother Yunjio was righteous and generous. He wouldn't mistreat them. Sister is right. Lu Mei-er quickly made her decision. She told Yunjioga about the ruin her father found in the central state. In the end, she sincerely said, if senior brother Yunjio can accompany us to the central state, you can choose whatever you want from the ruin. Let me think about it. Yunjioga was not immediately moved. She began to evaluate whether this trip was worth it or not. She had heard about the chaos in the central state, but with Zishang by her side, it shouldn't be a big problem. When they passed by the Thunder Country, she could sneak back and give the Yi Yunji to Yi Yu. Thinking about it like this, she could kill two birds with one stone. Lu Mei-er nervously looked at Yunjioga. When she revealed this secret, she was worried that she would be silenced. Now seeing Yunjioga hesitate, she was worried that she wouldn't go. Since we've decided to go to the central state, we need to make preparations. We can't just rush in like this. I need to go back and take care of the Encorp sect. It would be best if the two of you go into seclusion and raise your cultivation to the next level. Then you can make some defensive items. As Yunjioga spoke, her thoughts became clear. She began to teach them by name. Lu Mei-er, although your Encorp's puppet is not bad, it lacks a core, so it isn't very strong. I'll lend you 5,000 spirit jades and you can go to a nearby shop to find a good inner core. It would be best if it was a demonic monkey's inner core. I'll help you refine it into a core. Cores were usually made from demonic beasts' inner cores and only weapon refiners could refine them. Because refining a core took a lot of effort, the lowest grade core would cost several tens of thousands of spirit jades and it wasn't that easy to use. Although Yunjioga didn't know how to refine weapons, she knew how to refine pills. When the time came, the core could still be used. Chapter 357. Many thanks, senior brother. Lu Mei-er excitedly nodded her head. She had wanted to make a core for her Encorp's puppet for a long time. It was a pity that she was short of money and could only dream about it. She never thought that the opportunity would come so quickly. Senior brother, what about me? Lu Tian-er impatiently asked. Encorp's puppet had already used up all of their savings. Other than the bone spikes on her body, she had nothing else useful. Your biggest weapon is yourself. The 9 Netherworld Dao body, a natural-born living corpse, was even stronger than Yi Yunji's Een Spirit Dao body. Senior brother wants me to activate the 9 Netherworld Dao body? Lu Tian-er frowned and said, but the ghost chi on my body is already very heavy. If I do it again, I'm afraid my heart will be completely corroded by the ghost chi and I'll become a living corpse. Actually, she didn't need to do it too many times. If she did it again, her little life would be over. I have a method here, but I don't know if you're willing to use it. Yunjioga said with some hesitation. Senior brother Yun, why don't you tell me? Lu Tian-er cautiously asked, not daring to rashly agree. This thing can help you solve the ghost chi problem. Yunjioga's right hand turned over and a palm-sized black flower pot appeared. There were several red Een spirit talismans carved on it. There was a layer of red soil in the flower pot with a thumb-sized gray seed in the middle. She could faintly see a frightened face inside the seed. Isn't this the seed of the frightening spirit grass? Lu Tian-er asked in confusion. This frightening spirit grass not only emitted gray Een chi, it would also scream when it smelled a person from afar. It was a seed unique to evil sections. The frightening spirit grass was usually used for defense, but there were people who specifically planted it in mass graves to create a terrifying aura and then add in some Een chi. The valley in the center of the Een chi cemetery was filled with frightening spirit grass. It was used to maintain the Een chi cemetery. If a disciple with insufficient cultivation entered the valley, they would be scared to death by the terrifying screams. That's right, this is a frightening spirit grass seed that I accidentally obtained. It needs large amounts of ghost chi to germinate. It's just right for your situation. Yunjioga pointed at the bottom of the flower pot and the Een spirit talismans around it and said, "This is a ghost-absorbing talisman. As long as you hold this flower pot, it will automatically absorb the ghost chi in your body." Really? Lu Tian'er was doubtful. Over the years, she had tried all kinds of methods to get rid of the cold ghost chi in her body, and she really didn't believe that this small and broken flower pot could solve the problem. "Why don't you try it and you'll know?" Yunjioga handed over the small flower pot. Lu Tian'er took it and placed her palm on the bottom of the flower pot. An extremely frightened face immediately appeared on the soul-shocking grass. The red soil rotated on its own without any wind, forming a small whirlpool. Lu Tian'er immediately discovered a huge suction force coming from the whirlpool, sucking in the Een chi in her body. In less than an hour, the Een cold ghost chi that had troubled her for a long time was completely absorbed. The human face of the soul-shocking grass disappeared, and the red soil returned to its original position. The color was darker than before. "Senior brother Yunjioga, you're really amazing." Lu Tian'er was full of admiration for Yunjioga. With this treasure, she could boldly use her netherworld Taoist body in the future. "Senior brother Yunjioga, how long can this artifact be used for?" Lu Mei was more cautious, worried that her sister would get carried away and overuse it. "At least 150 times. At that time, the soil would turn black, and the soul-shocking grass would completely germinate." Yunjioga took out this artifact that could absorb ghost chi not to help Lu Tian'er, but because she needed high-quality soul-shocking grass to detoxify the second layer of the 9 bone shatterers poison. Third-stage high-grade soul-shocking grass could be sold for about 20,000 spirit jades on the market, and 7,000 sect contribution points were not hard to find. However, Zishang felt that it was impossible to buy high-quality soul-shocking grass outside, so he cultivated it himself. Zishang went to the Een Energy Cemetery to get the best seed, and then went to Ink Flower Peak to dig up the last bit of blood soil. Finally, he refined this small flower pot, and gave it to her when he set off to save the Lu sisters. Originally, Yunjioga didn't want to use it. She felt that the Lu sisters were already miserable enough, and it was too much for her to use them. However, although this artifact can absorb ghost chi, if you use it for a long time, the netherworld Taoist body will slowly disappear. Although it won't affect your cultivation level, I still hope that you will think about it carefully. Not only would this thing absorb the Een energy in Lu Tian'er's body, but it would also destroy her Taoist body. It was not a good thing. It's better if it disappears. Lu Tian'er didn't care about her broken body at all. Although her cultivation speed was slightly faster than others, it was not worth mentioning compared to the consequences of being exposed. "Senior brother Yunjio, are you sure that disappearing Taoist body won't affect my sister?" Lu Mei asked nervously. She was afraid that her sister would become a cripple if her Taoist body disappeared, and that would be the end of her. There will more or less be some side effects. After her netherworld Taoist body disappears, she won't be able to unleash the power of a living corpse, and her cultivation speed will also decrease. She will probably drop to the same level as you. Yunjioga said truthfully. It will be good if she can reach the same speed as my sister. Lu Tian'er felt that her sister's cultivation speed was still very fast. It's great that she won't become a living corpse again. Lu Mei was also very satisfied. Since you guys have agreed, then keep the flower pot. I'll get you another one when it's no longer needed. Although Yunjioga only needed one soul-shocking grass, it would be good to grow it and store it. Zishang had said that the soul-shocking grass had other special uses. "Thank you, senior brother." Lu Tian'er put the flower pot away like a treasure. "If there's nothing else, I'll return to the Een Corp sect first. I'll go to the Central Plains in 3 months. Take these 2 communication talismans, I'll inform you when the time comes." Yunjioga took out 2 high-level communication talismans and generously said that he wouldn't charge them for it. "Senior brother, take care." The Lu sisters happily took the communication talismans and respectfully sent Yunjioga off. Sister, where are we going next? Lu Tian'er turned her head and looked at her sister with a burning gaze. There's still some time left. Let's go into seclusion to heal first, then go back to the Lu family to see our good uncle. Lu Mei's gaze was vicious. Although they were still not her uncle's match, they could still give him some trouble to take revenge. Yunjioga didn't know that the Lu sisters' confidence had increased after receiving her guidance and were preparing to go to the Lu family to cause trouble. After she returned to her cave abode, she began to busy herself with her plan. She didn't know how long it would take to go to the Central Plains this time, so she had to think of a way to go into seclusion. Chapter 358. We've already gone into closed-door cultivation once. What excuse do you think we should come up with? Yunjioga asked Zishang. What's there to think about? It's only natural for cultivators to go into seclusion. Zishang gave her a contemptuous look. I'm just feeling guilty. She had gone into seclusion to cultivate the last time after she had finished setting up the abode of Immortal's cave. Until little Fatty came to find her. Now that she said she wanted to go into seclusion again, she felt that it was inappropriate. Zishang was speechless when faced with such an honest Yunjioga. Forget it. Let's get ready for seclusion first. Yunjioga quickly made a decision. He went to the mission hall to get a token to enter the Yin Energy Cemetery. The journey to Zhongzhou was quite long, and the Lu sisters were poor, so they needed her help. She planned to refine some Yin Meridian protection pills and sell them in a nearby workshop to earn some traveling expenses. The Yin Meridian protection pill was a Tier 3 pill, an upgraded version of the Yin gathering pill. It could increase the speed of a foundation establishment cultivator's cultivation. It was said that a single low-grade spirit pill could be sold for 5,000 spirit jades. However, refining this pill required a large amount of Yin Qi, so he had to go to the Yin Qi cemetery to collect it. The mission hall of the Inner Sanctum disciples looked magnificent. There were all kinds of missions inside, and the contribution points were several times higher than the Outer Sanctum missions. At this moment, there were hundreds of people gathered inside, and it was very noisy and lively. Yunjioga walked into the Hall of Missions and glanced around. He then walked to the front desk where there were fewer people. The disciple in charge was dressed in black with a white skull embroidered on his chest. He was a disciple of White Bone Peak. At this moment, he had his head lowered and seemed to be organizing something. I want to take the mission to kill Yin ghosts, Yunjioga said. Just a moment. The disciple in charge raised his head and saw Yunjioga. He immediately frowned and said, "This is not a place for outer sect disciples like you. I am an inner sect disciple of the sect Master Mountain." Yunjioga knew that his cultivation level had caused a misunderstanding. Although she had already advanced to the 6th stage of Qi cultivation, there was still a long way to go before she reached the foundation building stage. It was no wonder that this disciple would misunderstand. Sect Leader Peak. The disciple in charge seemed to have thought of something as he sized up Yunjioga. It seemed like he had already recognized her. The commotion here also attracted the attention of the surrounding people, and the sounds of discussion arose. Is that the disciple who was tortured by the 1,000-year-old corpse? That's right, the one who sells chrysanthemums in exchange for cultivation. He's not bad looking. No wonder he's taken a fancy to him. Tisk, it's neither human nor ghost, neither yin nor yang. It's disgusting to look at it. Thanks to Elder Mo Hua and Elder Bai Gu, Yunjioga had become famous in the Yin Corpse sect. People called him a little boy selling chrysanthemums. Yunjioga didn't think that selling chrysanthemums had anything to do with him, so his expression didn't change. He continued to say to the disciple in charge, "The task of killing the evil ghost, thank you." The disciple in charge rolled his eyes and revealed an embarrassed expression. He said to Yunjioga, "I'm sorry, the task of killing the Yin ghosts has been taken." Yunjioga looked at the mission list hanging high in the back of the mission hall and narrowed her eyes. Trying to trick her? How bold. These missions have already been confirmed by the people from Whitebone Peak and Inkflower Peak. They will come over to collect them later. The disciple in charge raised his voice and shouted. Yeah, we've already made up our minds. The disciples of the Whitebone Peak and the Inkflower Peak in the lobby immediately gathered around, and accepted all the tasks of killing the ghosts in a flurry. The other disciples at the front desk also quietly accepted the task. The disciple in charge smiled and introduced to Yunjioga with pretended enthusiasm, "Junior brother, in fact, we have many tasks with high contribution points here. For example, guarding the mine and staying there for a month can get 5,000 contribution points. And this, killing the demonic beasts in the deep abyss valley can get 10,000 contribution points." Yunjioga glanced at the mission recommended by the disciple. Not only did they have to leave the Een Corpse sect, but they were also very difficult. There were very few people who accepted them. It was obvious that they had bad intentions. Yunjioga politely said, "Thank you for your kindness, senior brother. However, I need to go into seclusion to collect Een Chi. Since I've finished today's task of killing Een ghosts, I'll come back tomorrow." Yunjioga politely said. "Junior brother, the task of killing the evil ghosts has been taken by our Inkflower Peak and Whitebone Peak recently. I'm afraid that you will come here in vain tomorrow." The disciple in charge saw Yunjioga's weak and bullied appearance, so he gradually became bolder. The other disciples also followed and said, "Not to mention tomorrow, even the day after tomorrow or the year after next, there will be no task for you. Just go back and hug your old corpse to sleep. You can go up a few days with your cultivation. Why do you still have to work so hard?" "That's right, you can cultivate while lying down. I am so envious." The disciples present were all at the early stage of foundation establishment. In their eyes, the chi condensation stage was like an ant that could be easily crushed. Although everyone knew that Yunjioga had a 1,000-year-old corpse, they were not convinced until they saw it with their own eyes. Yunjioga looked at these people who were not afraid of death with interest. On the contrary, Zishang was a little impatient. He raised his palm, and countless fishes of purple mist slithered behind the triumphant disciples, opening their mouths and ripping off their clothes. Ah. Those disciples who were teasing were horrified to find that their clothes were quickly disappearing, and their bodies were involuntarily flying outside. In the blink of an eye, half of the people in the mission hall had been cleared. The disciple in charge was at the top of the mission hall, and below him was a row of fellow sufferers. All of them were naked, and the words, F***ck me, were very eye-catching. "Leave a pair of pants so that my eyes won't be dirty," Yunjioga added coldly. The disciples who were about to run naked managed to save their last bit of dignity, and a small piece of cloth covered their sensitive parts. "I should have given them some aphrodisiac." Zishang was a little regretful. If it was somewhere else, he would be able to have a good time. "Is aphrodisiac free?" Yunjioga silently rolled her eyes. They were just a bunch of disciples who were gossiping, and it was enough to teach them a lesson. Why waste so much effort? Completing the mission was more important. Yunjioga changed to another receptionist. This time, it was a female disciple from the Inkflower Peak. As soon as she saw her, she couldn't help but cross her arms, as if she was afraid of being molested. Even if the Inkflower Peak was open, it was not open to the point of stripping naked for others to see. "Miss, do you still have missions to kill Een ghosts?" Yunjioga asked very politely. Yes. The female disciple immediately took out a few tokens to enter the Een Energy Cemetery, and respectfully placed them in front of Yunjioga. "Thank you." Yunjioga randomly chose a token, and left the silent mission hall. She looked at the door, and saw white skin, black leg hair, and a small piece of cloth in the middle. It was clear at a glance whether it was big or small. "TSK, what an eyesore. Why are you still looking at it?" Zishang turned Yunjioga's head back, and pulled her away. Behind him, a small breeze blew, and countless small pieces of cloth fell, causing countless female disciples to scream excitedly. Chapter 359. Yunjioga entered the En-Chi cemetery with the token in hand. With a single glance, he saw two groups of outer disciples confronting each other. One group was the low-level disciples of Peak 2. The leader was a disciple called Shenfeng, who had a good relationship with Little Fatty. The other group was the high-level disciples of Peak 3. They were smiling nastily at Shenfeng and said, "Hand over the En-Chi bottle obediently, and we can spare your lives." "Don't go too far," Shenfeng said angrily. Recently, they had been constantly troubled by the high-level disciples of Peak 1 and 3. Especially those from Peak 3, who entered the En-Chi cemetery without doing any work. Instead, they were waiting to rob them. They had risked their lives to obtain the En-Chi. Without the En-Chi, they couldn't cultivate. They couldn't even pay the basic contribution points. This was no different from forcing them to death. "So what if I bully you guys?" Those high-level disciples laughed. "Enough, less nonsense. Just grab it and leave. I'm busy." The other high-level disciples did not say anything else. They took out their bone spikes and charged at Shenfeng. "Formation," Shenfeng shouted and took the initiative to attack with his frosty En-Chi palm. The other low-level disciples attacked as well. The white frosty En-Chi and En-Chi intertwined, blocking all the attacks from the high-level disciples. Their training in the Little Arcana realm was not for naught. They had perfected this move, and its power was extraordinary. Unfortunately, they had exhausted too much spiritual energy in the En-Chi cemetery. Soon, a hole appeared in their defense formation. "Kill them." The morale of the Peak 3 disciples was high. More than 10 bone spikes charged toward Shenfeng. Shenfeng's face paled. His life was in danger. Suddenly, something happened. Suddenly, numerous gray vines shot out from the grayish-brown ground under the Peak 3 disciples' feet, trapping them on the spot. "Retreat." Shenfeng immediately led his group and started running. They maintained their formation quite well. From the looks of it, they were well trained. Yunjioga saw that Shenfeng's group was almost done running, so she prepared to retract the gray vines. Zisheng looked at Yunjioga, puzzled. "Why not kill them? There's always the next batch after killing them. There's no need." Although Yunjioga had heard that the disciples of Peak 2 were being bullied because of her, she still felt bad seeing it with her own eyes. Releasing a tiger back into the mountains will only bring about endless trouble in the future. Zisheng's expression was one of disapproval. After this batch of high-ranking disciples went out, they would only become more aggressive in bullying those low-ranking disciples. "I only said that I wouldn't kill them, but I didn't say that I would let them off so easily." Yunjioga revealed a sly smile. With a flick of his finger, several gray dots landed on the bodies of those high-ranking disciples. This was a paralysis powder. It would take effect in an hour. If they behaved themselves, they would be fine, but once they used their spiritual power, their whole body would be paralyzed and they wouldn't be able to move. If he went to find trouble with those low-level disciples on the second peak, he would only end up getting beaten up. Yunjioga clapped his hands and continued walking towards the inner circle. The withered vines and dead trees in the inner circle were filled with wandering level 2 En ghosts. They would rush over as soon as they smelled the scent of humans. The little skeleton monkey hanging on her waist looked as if it had nothing left to live for. It hung its neck motionlessly. "This is very likely to be the last time we enter the En Energy Cemetery. Are you sure you don't want to eat to your heart's content?" Yunjioga took out 4 bone spurs and killed a group of En ghosts like skewering candied haws. After advancing to Chi Disciple Stage 6, her spiritual power circulation became smoother and her control of the bone spurs became more precise. Unfortunately, she still couldn't fly on her tool. When the little skeleton monkey heard Yunjioga's words, it instantly came back to life. It climbed onto her shoulder with its hands and feet and opened its mouth to absorb En energy desperately. The two of them, one killing and one absorbing, were extremely efficient. Gradually, they walked into the depths of the inner circle. Yunjioga killed until dusk and returned with a full load. At this time, the naked man at the entrance of the mission hall was already gone. The disciple in charge of handing over missions respectfully helped her record the mission. He didn't even dare to let out a fart. After Yunjioga used her contribution points to exchange for the herbs to concoct the Meridian Protection Pill, she returned to the sect's main peak. In the distance, she saw Jin Chuan standing in front of her cave with a gloomy face. There was even a little fatty following behind him. He was constantly giving her a meaningful look, as if something bad had happened. "Senior brother Jin Chuan, how come you have the time to visit my humble home?" Yunjioga pretended not to see the little fatty's eyes as she coldly greeted Jin Chuan. "Did you do what happened in the mission hall today?" Jin Chuan asked with a straight face. "What does senior brother mean?" Yunjioga had an innocent face. "We are all fellow disciples, even if there was a quarrel, you can't hang them up there and humiliate them." Jin Chuan was very angry. Just now, a bunch of disciples had come over to complain about their humiliations, forcing him to come and seek justice. It was all Yunjioga's fault. "I'm wrongly accused, I'm only in the Qi disciple stage, how could I have the ability to humiliate those foundation establishment stage senior brothers?" "If you don't believe me, you can ask the senior brothers and sisters who gave out the mission. I didn't move a single finger from beginning to end." Yunjioga swore that what she said was the truth. "You didn't move, then what about your corpse?" Jin Chuan knew that Yunjioga didn't have this ability, but who told her to have such an amazing person by her side? "I don't know about this, how about I call him out and you ask him yourself?" Yunjioga had never given Zishang an order to humiliate people, so she didn't want to take the blame for this. "Uncle, I believe that senior brother Yunjioga is innocent. Is there a misunderstanding here?" Little Fatty carefully tried to smooth things over. What misunderstanding could there be? It was just those cheap-mouthed disciples ganging up to deal with Yunjioga, but they were slapped in the face instead. Jin Chuan was very clear on this point. He only came here today to show his attitude, he wasn't stupid enough to negotiate with a 1,000-year-old corpse. "We'll just forget about this matter, you just need to be a bit more obedient in the future." Jin Chuan drew a full stop. "Senior brother Jin Chuan, you can be assured, I'm going into closed-door cultivation. I won't come out until I reach the foundation establishment stage." Yunjioga promised. "Closed-door cultivation again?" Jin Chuan knit his brows and said, "Although you have the help of your corpse, it's unknown how long it'll take for you to reach the foundation establishment stage. In another half a year is our corpse sex fiend corpse slaying event, you have to come out and participate at that time. But I'm only a Qi condensation stage disciple." Yunjioga felt a headache just hearing about the secret realm. "Every peak has to send out 2 people, the 3 great elders have asked you to represent our sect's main peak. Elder Amo Hua has already said that if you don't go, you'll be violating the sect's rules. If it's light, you'll be sent back to the outer sect. If it's heavy, you'll be kicked out of the corpse sect." Jin Chuan telling Yunjioga this news ahead of time was already very benevolent. "Many thanks for senior brother Jin Chuan's reminder, I understand." Yunjioga nodded his head to show that he understood. "You're on your own." Jin Chuan waved his sleeve and left. Chapter 360. Yunjioga entered the Qi cemetery with the token in hand. With a single glance, he saw 2 groups of outer disciples confronting each other. One group was the low-level disciples of Peak 2. The leader was a disciple called Shenfeng, who had a good relationship with Little Fatty. The other group was the high-level disciples of Peak 3. They were smiling nastily at Shenfeng and said, "Hand over the Qi bottle obediently, and we can spare your lives." "Don't go too far," Shenfeng said angrily. Recently, they had been constantly troubled by the high-level disciples of Peak 1 and 3. Especially those from Peak 3, who entered the Qi cemetery without doing any work. Instead, they were waiting to rob them. They had risked their lives to obtain the Qi. Without the Qi, they couldn't cultivate. They couldn't even pay the basic contribution points. This was no different from forcing them to death. So what if I bully you guys? Those high-level disciples laughed. Enough, less nonsense. Quickly snatch it and leave. I'm busy. The other high-level disciples did not say anything else. They took out their bone spurs and charged at Chen Feng. Formation, Chen Feng shouted and took the initiative to attack with his frosty Yin Chi palm. The other low-level disciples attacked as well. The white frosty Yin Chi and Yin Chi intertwined, blocking all the attacks of the high-level disciples. Their training in the little arcana realm was not for naught. They had perfected this move, and its power was extraordinary. Unfortunately, they had exhausted too much spiritual energy in the Yin Chi cemetery. Soon, a hole appeared in their defense formation. Kill them. The morale of the Peak 3 disciples was high. Over 10 bone spurs charged toward Chen Feng. Chen Feng's face paled. His life was in danger. Suddenly, something happened. Suddenly, numerous gray vines shot out of the grayish-brown ground under the Peak 3 disciples' feet, trapping them on the spot. Retreat. Chen Feng immediately led his group and started running. They maintained their formation quite well. From the looks of it, they were well trained. Yin Jioga saw that Chen Feng's group was almost done running, so she prepared to retract the gray vines. Zi Sheng looked at Yin Jioga, puzzled. Why not kill them? There's always the next batch after killing them. There's no need. Although Yin Jioga had long heard that the disciples of Peak 2 were bullied because of her, she still felt bad seeing it with her own eyes. Releasing a tiger back into the mountains will only bring about endless trouble in the future. Zi Sheng's expression was one of disapproval. After this batch of high-ranking disciples went out, they would only become more aggressive in bullying those low-ranking disciples. I only said that I wouldn't kill them, but I didn't say that I would let them off so easily. Yin Jioga revealed a sly smile. With a flick of his finger, several gray dots landed on the bodies of those high-ranking disciples. This was a paralysis powder. It would take effect in an hour. If they behaved themselves, they would be fine, but once they used their spiritual power, their whole body would be paralyzed and they wouldn't be able to move. If he went to find trouble with those low-level disciples on the second peak, he would only end up getting beaten up. Yin Jioga clapped his hands and continued walking towards the inner circle. The withered vines and dead trees in the inner circle were filled with wandering level 2 Yin ghosts. They would rush over as soon as they smelled the scent of humans. The little skeleton monkey hanging on her waist looked as if it had nothing left to live for. It hung its neck motionlessly. This is very likely to be the last time we enter the Yin Energy Cemetery. Are you sure you don't want to eat to your heart's content? Yin Jioga took out 4 bone spurs and killed a group of Yin ghosts like a skewer of candied haws. After advancing to Qi Disciple Stage 6, her spiritual power circulation became smoother and her control of the bone spurs became more precise. Unfortunately, she still couldn't fly on her tool. When the little skeleton monkey heard Yin Jioga's words, it instantly came back to life. It climbed onto her shoulder with its hands and feet and opened its mouth to absorb Yin energy desperately. The two of them, one killing and one absorbing, were extremely efficient. Gradually, they walked into the depths of the inner circle. Yin Jioga killed until dusk and returned with a full load. At this time, the naked man at the entrance of the mission hall was already gone. The disciple in charge of handing over the mission respectfully helped her to record the mission. He didn't even dare to fart. After Yin Jioga used her contribution points to exchange for the herbs to concoct the Yin Meridian Protection Pill, she returned to the sect's main peak. In the distance, she saw Jin Chuan standing in front of her cave with a gloomy face. There was even a little fatty following behind him. He was constantly giving her a meaningful look, as if something bad had happened. Senior brother Jin Chuan, how come you have the time to visit my humble home? Yin Jioga pretended not to see the little fatty's eyes as she coldly greeted Jin Chuan. Did you do what happened in the mission hall today? Jin Chuan asked with a straight face. What does senior brother mean? Yunjioga had an innocent face. We are all fellow disciples, even if there was a quarrel, you can't hang them there and humiliate them. Jin Chuan was very angry. Just now, a bunch of disciples had come over to complain about their humiliations, forcing him to come and seek justice. It was all Yunjioga's fault. I'm wrongly accused, I'm only in the Chi disciple stage, how could I have the ability to humiliate those foundation establishment stage senior brothers? If you don't believe me, you can ask the senior brothers and sisters who gave out the mission. I didn't move a single finger from beginning to end. Yunjioga swore that what she said was the truth. You didn't move, then what about your corpse? Jin Chuan knew that Yunjioga didn't have this ability, but who told her to have such an amazing person by her side? I don't know about this, how about I call him out and you ask him yourself? Yunjioga had never given Zi Shang an order to humiliate people, so she didn't want to be the scapegoat. Uncle, I believe that senior brother Yunjioga is innocent, is there a misunderstanding here? Little Fatty carefully tried to smooth things over. What misunderstanding could there be? It was just those cheap-mouthed disciples ganging up to deal with Yunjioga, but they were slapped in the face instead. Jin Chuan was very clear on this point. He only came here today to show his attitude, he wasn't stupid enough to negotiate with a 1,000-year-old corpse. We'll just forget about this matter, you just need to be a bit more obedient in the future. Jin Chuan drew a full stop. Senior brother Jin Chuan, you can be assured, I'm going into closed-door cultivation. I won't come out until I reach the foundation establishment stage. Yunjioga promised. Closed-door cultivation again? Jin Chuan knit his brows and said, although you have the help of your corpse, it's unknown how long it'll take for you to reach the foundation establishment stage. In half a year it will be our corpse sex fiend corpse slaying event, you have to come out and participate at that time. But I'm only a Chi condensation stage disciple. Yunjioga felt a headache just hearing about the secret realm. Every peak has to send out 2 people, the 3 great elders have asked you to represent our sect's main peak. Elder Amo Hua has already said that if you don't go, you'll be violating the sect's rules. If it's light, you'll be sent back to the outer sect, if it's heavy, you'll be kicked out of the corpse sect. Jin Chuan telling Yunjioga this news ahead of time was already very benevolent. Many thanks for senior brother Jin Chuan's reminder, I understand. Yunjioga nodded his head to show that he understood. You're on your own. Jin Chuan waved his sleeve and left. Chapter 361. Alchemist Yun, please don't misunderstand. I just feel that this meridian nourishing pill is different from the ones I've seen before. That's why I have some doubts, shopkeeper Jean said apologetically and took out the pills they sold in their shop to show Yunjioga. The pills sold by the Myriad Treasure Pagoda were all light red in color. They were very beautiful and carried a faint fragrance. Yunjioga's dusty pill was placed at the side like trash. It was no wonder that shopkeeper Jean was suspicious. Your meridian nourishing pill uses the power of herbs as its foundation and focuses on protecting the meridians. Mine uses the power of Qi as its foundation and focuses on cultivating and protecting the meridians. To put it bluntly, her pill was more impressive and more suitable for evil cultivators. Could it be that Alchemist Yun has the dark pill recipe? Shopkeeper Jin's eyes immediately lit up, and his small eyes became much bigger. Their Myriad Treasure Pagoda had branches all over the world, but they could not make a big deal in the evil and demonic sections. The root of the problem was that the alchemists they supported were mainly spirit alchemists. They could not concoct pills that were most suitable for the evil and demonic sections. Dark alchemists were eccentric and few in number. Most of them were supported by the evil and demonic sects themselves. It was too difficult to nurture them. If he could purchase a dark spirit pill recipe from this group of cloaked alchemists, not only could he increase the shop's sales, he might even be able to attract some loose cultivators. I'm just an errand boy. I'm just selling on behalf of a certain master. Yunjioga waved her hand. I wonder if Alchemist Yun can help me ask if that master is willing to give up that dark pill recipe? The price can be negotiated. Although Yunjioga was wearing a black cloak, shopkeeper Jean could still see that her cultivation was not very high. He did not believe that she was dark alchemist. Shopkeeper Jean should know dark alchemist's temper very well. If I go back and ask for you, I'm afraid I won't be able to come out alive. It's more practical to maintain our cooperation. Yunjioga lowered her voice. Although selling the pill recipe would make a lot of money, it would also be much more troublesome. Alchemist Yun is right. I was too rash. I wonder how many spirit jade you plan to sell it for. Although shopkeeper Jean felt that it was a pity, he knew that this matter could not be rushed. He had to establish a good relationship with this person first. Shopkeeper Jean, why don't you find an expert and give me a price? Otherwise, you will think that I'm being greedy. This batch of Meridian nourishing pills could only be sold at a good price if they were given to someone who knew their stuff. Shopkeeper Jean obviously did not know his stuff. You are right, Alchemist Yun. Shopkeeper Jean nodded and asked the waiter to summon Alchemist Chen. Alchemist Chen's temples were graying. He wasn't tall and there were 2 deep wrinkles at the corners of his mouth. He looked like a rigid person. Alchemist Chen, we have a batch of Meridian protection pills made from a dark elixir recipe. Please give us a price. Shopkeeper Jean said politely to Alchemist Chen. Alchemist Chen nodded expressionlessly. Then, he reached out with his shriveled hand and picked up a gray pill. He first sniffed it, then added some more. Finally, he asked the waiter to bring over a bowl of clear dew water to dissolve the pill. The clear dew water that was originally so clear that the bottom could be seen immediately turned into an incomparably dense gray, and there was even a gray gas rising up. That was the Qi evaporating. Alchemist Chen dipped his index finger into the liquid and sucked on it. Then, he poured the liquid into his mouth and closed his eyes to rest. Yunjioga frowned as he watched. He felt that this little old man was a little unreliable. High-grade medicinal pill. Alchemist Chen said with a straight face. Then, he turned around and left without looking at Yunjioga. Alchemist Yun, the medicinal pills of our 10,000 treasure tower are 5 spirit master spirit stones for 1. The medicinal effect of yours is a little denser. How about 6 spirit stones for 1? Shopkeeper Jean asked with a smile. Sure. This price was within Yunjioga's budget. 1 spiritual stone was equivalent to 1,000 spiritual jades. 100 medicinal pills would be 600 spiritual stones. 60,000 spiritual jades was a huge sum of money. Shopkeeper Jean was all smiles as he received the 100 pills and gave Yunjioga 600 pieces of low-grade spirit stones. These spirit stones were each the size of a palm. They were completely transparent and had a faint blue tint to them. The spirit qi within them was much denser than that of the spiritual jades. When will Alchemist Yun be working with us again? Shopkeeper Jean asked again. I don't know. Yunjioga had received a huge sum of money. He did not plan to seek fame for the time being. If you still have medicinal pills, please come to our store. We will definitely give you a satisfactory price. Shopkeeper Jean was very sincere. Of course, of course. Yunjioga returned the favor. Oh right, Alchemist Yun, we have recently received a new batch of high-quality spiritual medicine. Are you interested in taking a look? Shopkeeper Jean started to solicit business. The person in front of him was not only a good business partner, but also a rich man. How could he just let him go? I do not lack spiritual medicine, but I would like to buy a convenient Dharma artifact. It would be best if it was a small knife, 7 inches long and 1 finger wide. Yunjioga gestured at the scalpel in his mind. Shopkeeper Jean listened attentively and said, We do have a few decent knives in our store. I wonder what grade of Dharma artifact you would like. A 3rd grade one will do. We have some decent 2nd grade ones. You can also take a look. 3rd grade Dharma artifacts were for Foundation establishment cultivators. Second-grade Dharma artifacts were for chi refinement cultivators. Yunjioga only said this because he wanted to hide his true strength from shopkeeper Jean. Alchemist Yun, please wait a moment. Shopkeeper Jean went out and returned in less than 15 minutes with an exquisite storage pouch. Then, he took out 2 red brocade boxes and opened them one by one in front of Yunjioga. In the first brocade box, it was more like a dagger than a knife. It had a dark red hilt and a snow-white blade that emitted a cold and sharp light. In the second brocade box, there was a razor blade. It did not even have a handle. The blade was extremely thin and looked extremely sharp. These 2 knives are the most popular Dharma artifacts in our million treasure do. They are extraordinarily sharp. Even an elementary foundation establishment cultivator's protective spiritual barrier can be easily pierced through. Both of them cost 500 spirit stones. Shopkeeper Jean enthusiastically introduced them. But I didn't buy it to make a weapon. I bought it to dig out flesh. Yunjioga was actually quite satisfied with these 2 swords. Unfortunately, they were too expensive. She still had to save up for travel expenses. So that's how it is. What you want is an evil artifact, right? Our shop has a set of evil artifacts that fits your requirements. Shopkeeper Jean thought he understood Yunjioga's thoughts. Indeed, there were some dark spiritualists who would often use humans to make pills. This alchemist Yun was probably in charge of menial tasks, helping to kill and cut the meat. If you have it, show it to me. Yunjioga didn't explain. This is a set of evil weapons that our myriad treasure tower purchased. Its power is not bad, and it has the innate ability to suck blood and spirit. It's a pity that the most important main blade is missing, so its power is greatly reduced. However, it's still a pretty good evil weapon. Alchemist Yun, take a look and see if you like it. Shopkeeper Jean took out a black wooden box and carefully opened it. Chapter 362. Inside the wooden box were 4 3-inch-long knives. They were not made of gold or iron, and had red rust spots on them. One look at them would make anyone feel uncomfortable. Yunjioga, however, felt that they looked familiar, as if they had met before. The evil weapon you got from Bloodthirst sect is a set with this one. Zi Shang whispered into Yunjioga's ear, buy it. Yunjioga then remembered the knife evil weapon. Because the evil energy was too heavy, and its power was not that great, she did not take it seriously. If she could make it into a set with these 4 knives, she would make a fortune. Yunjioga looked at the 4 evil weapons carefully and asked, how much for these? 200 spirit stones for one. If you want all of them, I'll take it as 500 spirit stones. Shopkeeper Jean said generously. 300 spirit stones. Yunjioga immediately cut the price by 1/3. Alchemist Yun, this is a 3rd-grade evil weapon. It has bloodthirst and spirit-devouring abilities. Selling it at this price would be a huge loss for me. Shopkeeper Jean shook his head. This evil weapon lacks a main knife, and its evil energy is too heavy. I need to spend a lot of effort to nourish it, and I don't even know if I can tame it after nourishing it. 300 spirit stones is also a risk for me. Yunjioga was not afraid that shopkeeper Jean would not sell it. Evil weapons were always about affinity. They would only submit to an owner they liked. Otherwise, the evil energy would backfire, and the worst case would devour the owner. One would only dare to use it if they were very confident. It was like gambling. Alchemist Yun really knows how to talk. All right, I'll treat it as a friend. 300 it is. Shopkeeper Jean made a pained expression. Actually, he had only bought it for 100 spirit stones because the previous owner had already died from the backfire of this incomplete evil weapon. Shopkeeper Jean is indeed straightforward. I'm definitely going to be friends with you. Yunjioga also knew how to say nice things. Let him bring some defensive and flying artifacts. Zi Shang, who had been silent all this time, reminded Yunjioga. This place was so far from middle state that relying on spirit travel talismans was too slow. Yunjioga felt that Zishang's words were very reasonable, so he asked shopkeeper Jean, "Do you have any cheap defensive and flying artifacts?" "There aren't many flying artifacts, but more defensive artifacts. I'll show you a few first." Shopkeeper Jean took out 3 brocade boxes from his storage bag. One was a palm-sized black shield with red defensive runes engraved on its surface. It was as if vines were intertwining around it. The other was a golden bracelet that was similarly engraved with dense runes. Yunjioga tried injecting spirit energy into each of them. The small black shield could be big or small. Its defensive power was very strong, and it could withstand 10 attacks from a Foundation Establishment cultivator. Its weakness was that its movement speed was very slow, and it was similar to a turtle shell. Once the golden bracelet was activated, it would form a golden protective shield around one's entire body. The only drawback was that it could only withstand 5 attacks from a Foundation Establishment cultivator. Both defensive artifacts had their own advantages and disadvantages, and both were priced at 200 spirit stones. Lulu artifacts were of the box, with their advantages and disadvantages. Hi. She had Zishang by her side to protect her, but the Lu sisters didn't. Every time they encountered danger, Lu Tian'er had to activate her Hades Daoist physique. It was such a waste. The flying magic tool was a pair of white wings that could travel 1,000 miles in a day. It didn't consume a lot of spiritual energy and was very practical. It was a pity that it could only be flown by one person. Furthermore, it cost 500 spirit stones, which was completely out of Yunjioga's expectations. Is there anything cheaper? It would be best if it can carry 3 people, Yunjioga asked. This is already the cheapest in the shop. Artifacts that can carry 3 people are priced at least 5,000 spirit stones. Most of them are bought by the sect. Although shopkeeper Jean said it in a roundabout way, Yunjioga realized she was poor. Buying a car was too far away for her. I'll take this shield. Can it be any cheaper? Yunjioga tried to bargain. This is the latest model. There is no discount. However, considering our friendship, I can use my internal card to give you a 10% discount. That will be 90 spirit stones, shopkeeper Jean said with a smile. That's right, 10% is fine. How can there be a 10% discount? Yunjioga had seen it in the shop. The latest model didn't have a discount. But since shopkeeper Jean was talking about the internal price, the price could still be negotiated. Alright, 10% is fine. Shopkeeper Jean was easy to talk to. After wrapping up Yunjioga's things, he gave her a thin gold square token with the words, Million Treasure Tower, engraved on it. This is our Million Treasure Towers VIP token. You can enjoy a 10% discount in any shop. The Myriad Treasure Towers VIP token required one to spend 5,000 spirit stones and above before one had the qualifications to apply for it. Shopkeeper Jean wanted to befriend Yunjioga, so he specially helped her apply. Thank you. Yunjioga put it away unceremoniously and left Myriad Treasure Tower with the things. After shopkeeper Jean sent Yunjioga off, the shop assistant walked over and said, Young master is here. He wants you to find him in the sky room. Got it. Shopkeeper Jean hurried to the sky room. He saw a handsome man in his 20s sipping tea. Alchemist Chen stood beside him. Greetings, young master. Shopkeeper Jean bowed respectfully. I heard from old Chen that you just received a batch of good pills. Wanli Mingxian put down his teacup and asked. Yes, young master. Please take a look. Shopkeeper Jean respectfully showed the pills in his hand to Wanli Mingxian. Wanli Mingxian casually poured one into his mouth and chewed it like a bean. Then, he said, the Yin Qi in this pill seems to be from the Yin Qi cemetery of the Yin Corpse sect. Could it be that the alchemist master of the Yin Corpse sect secretly came out to fish for money? Shopkeeper Jean frowned. That didn't seem possible. A powerful alchemist master had a high status in the sect. They were worshipped like ancestors. Why would they covet a mere 600 spirit stones? No matter what his purpose is, we should just take the pills. There is nothing wrong with befriending him. Wanli Mingxian said as he swallowed the pills. Young master is right. Shopkeeper Jean saw his young master eat so casually and felt his heart ache. Young master, you have eaten so many pills. Do you want to find a quiet room to cultivate and meditate? Look at how distressed you are. Don't worry, you will get your share of spirit stones. The rules of the 1,000 Treasure Tower were very strict. Even if he was the young master, he couldn't casually use the pills. He had to spend spirit stones to buy them. 7 spirit stones for one. That's a total of 700 spirit stones. Thank you for your patronage. Shopkeeper Jean immediately put on a smile. Even his young master couldn't make a loss. 7 spirit stones for one. That's too much. Wanli Mingxian, who was eating happily, almost jumped up. Young master, these are superior grade pills. Old Shen personally appraised them. Shopkeeper Jean felt a bit wronged. If they were placed on the counter, 10 spirit stones for one would be easily sold. Chapter 363. Alright, I'll record it down first. Wanli Mingxian hurriedly kept the remaining pills. He was a little tight on money recently and could not waste any more. Young master, you've already recorded down 900 spirit stones, Shopkeeper Jean reminded. If it exceeded 1,000 spirit stones, the family head would personally come out to collect the debt. It's fine, I recently received news about the Central Continent ruins. I'll go there for a stroll and I guarantee I'll clear the amount when I come back, Wanli Mingxian said confidently. Then we'll congratulate young master for your success, Shopkeeper Jean hurriedly flattered. At this moment, Yun Jioga did not know that a troublesome person was also eyeing the Central Continent ruins. After she left Wan Baolu, she snuck into the noisiest alley in the workshop and started circling around. No need to circle around, no one is following you, Zi Shang said coldly. This Wan Baolu is not bad. Yun Jioga thought that Wan Baolu would follow her to search for that so-called Yin Pill master. After all, evil sects were best at cheating others. It's probably useless even if I know. I might as well leave a good impression so that we can meet again in the future. Shopkeeper Jean seemed to be a very sensible person. Then let's have a good stroll and see if we can buy a better demon core for the Lu sisters. Yun Jioga started strolling excitedly. Zi Shang followed beside her indifferently. Occasionally, he would find some good things and guide her to buy them. Yun Jioga bought a rank 2 3-eyed demon monkey's demon core and a cheap paper crane before reluctantly leaving the workshop and returning to the cave abode. At this moment, the sky was already slightly bright. The defenses that Zi Shang set up around the cave abode showed signs of being touched. Needless to say, it was definitely done by Elder Mo Hua and Elder Bai Gu. They did not dare to make a move at the sect master peak, so they frequently sent their subordinates to harass her. They tried to create an atmosphere where she was being monitored at all times, wanting Yun Jioga to live in fear and panic. Unfortunately, their wishful thinking was wrong. Yun Jioga did not care about this small matter at all. After she returned to the cave abode, she took out the evil weapon knife that she obtained from Bloodthirsty sect. This knife was wider and longer than the other 4, and there were more red rust spots on it. It was obvious that it was the main knife. Yun Jioga placed the main saber inside, and the other 4 small sabers immediately let out a buzzing sound. After flying together with the main saber into the air, they instantly combined into a foot-long, blood-red saber with a strong fishy smell. Good saber. Yun Jioga could tell at a glance that the saber was extraordinary. He had really profited. Be careful. Zi Shang suddenly pushed Yun Jioga away. The stool she was sitting on was immediately chopped into pieces by the blood-red evil blade. When the blood-red evil saber missed, it actually refused to give up and tried to attack again, but it was blocked outside by Zishang. What's going on? Yunjioga was extremely shocked. It thinks that your cultivation is too low, so it wants to kill you and find a new master. As Zishang spoke, he suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed the hilt of the evil blade. Then, he flicked the blade with his finger. Buzz buzz buzz. The evil saber immediately let out a painful groan. The blood on the blade faded significantly, and it looked like it was on the verge of death. How dare you betray your master? Destroy it, Yunjioga said through gritted teeth. The evil saber trembled even more violently, and in a flash, it transformed into 5 small daggers. The leading dagger stood on the table, its tip slightly bent, as though it was apologizing. Sister, I brought you out of that filthy place, bloodthirsty sect, and helped you find your lost brothers and sisters. Is this how you repay me? Yunjioga put her hands on her hips and pointed at the dagger with her right hand as she cursed. My good intentions were wasted, but it was treated as evil. I might as well destroy it. Zishang, do it. The leading main knife trembled even more violently, and the 4 daggers behind it fell to the ground, as though they were begging for mercy. Forget it. Evil weapons are all inhumane. It's fine as long as they are useful. Zishang indeed felt that this set of evil weapons was not bad. They could be psychic with evil, and were much more useful than ordinary Dharma artifacts. Besides, with him by Yunjioga's side, these evil weapons would not be able to do anything. That's true. If you want to compare inhumane, you definitely won't lose to them. Yunjioga nodded approvingly. After all, she had bought it for 300 spirit stones. How could she bear to destroy it? All right, drip your blood to make it your master. Zishang pierced Yunjioga's finger and dripped his blood on the blade of the main knife. The 5 daggers flashed with red light at the same time, and a mental connection was established with Yunjioga. Keep. Yunjioga ordered, and the set of daggers obediently returned to her storage bag. After Yunjioga was done, she took out a communication amulet and sent a message to the Lu sisters. I have the Yao core. See you tomorrow at noon at the same place. The same place was the cave where Yunjioga had helped Lu Mei remove the curse source. Zishang had set up some formations there, and it was very safe. It could be used as a temporary residence for the Lu sisters. The Lu sisters quickly sent a reply, saying that they were waiting for her arrival. The next day, Yunjioga arrived at the cave on time and saw the Lu sisters already waiting for her inside. In just a short 10 days, the Lu sisters had not only reached the 5th qi refining layer, but their mental state had also undergone a large change. Lu Mei's face was filled with hostility and Lu Tian's body was covered in a faint ghost qi. This was a characteristic of someone who had killed people to refine their blood. But the biggest change was the cloth puppet corpse sitting on Lu Mei's shoulder. Compared to before, it was simply a completely different weapon. The simple red clothes it was wearing had turned into an incomparably exquisite red silk. The sleeves and pants of its clothes were embroidered with exquisite gathering runes. The originally rough cloth puppet's skin had become smooth and delicate, looking like human skin. Its glossy black hair was tied into 2 buns. Its small round face still had a small mouth, but the teeth in its mouth were even sharper. It had already entered the human puppet stage. Where did you go? Yunjioga knit his brows. The 2 sisters didn't hide and instead went out to cause trouble. Did they really think they were some amazing people? We went back to the Lu family. Lu Mei took out a box of spirit jades from her storage bag and pushed it in front of Yunjioga. Senior brother, look at this and see if it's right. It seems like our harvest isn't bad. Yunjioga could tell with a glance that there were 20,000 pieces of spirit jades in the box. Other than the medical fees, he had also paid back the spirit jades he borrowed from her to buy the monster core. It's just bringing back our things. Lu Mei smiled, but her smile was filled with sadness. Her father had always doted on them since they were young. There were many things that shouldn't have been told to them, including the Lu family's secret room and treasure room. This time she and her little sister followed their memories to the Lu family and found the Lu family's treasure room. Although they couldn't bring back the most valuable things, they still made a profit. When they came out, they even threw a spiritual fire at that evil ant's place, enough for them to drink. Good job. Yunjioga couldn't help thinking back to when she was at the Yi family. In order to take back the things that belonged to the Yun family, she had fought hard for them. She felt that the Lu sisters were to her liking. That's right, senior brother Yunjioga, we found this in the Lu family. Lu Tian took out a brown wooden box like she was presenting a treasure. Chapter 364. Inside Lu Tianer's box was a heart the size of a baby's fist. It was completely black and red. It was the third-rank three-eyed monster monkey's monster core. Your sister's corpse puppet can't hold such a high-level core. A second-rank monster core is already enough. Yunjioga took out the monster core he bought from the workshop. This third-rank monster core will be senior brother Yun's reward. After the Lu sisters knew that Yunjioga had helped them buy the monster core, they decided to return the favor. There's no need for reward. Yunjioga picked up the level 3 demonic core and carefully looked at it. She suddenly had an idea in her heart. I'll refine these two demonic cores into twin demonic cores. You two sisters can control that puppet corpse together. Ah. The Lu sisters had a stunned expression. They had only heard of one person controlling several corpses to increase their battle strength. They had never heard of two people controlling it together. Wouldn't that be a mess? This core is too high level. It requires a high degree of concentration and strong spiritual energy. You can't do it alone, but you can do it together. Yunjioga saw that the two sisters still didn't understand, so he explained, when you combine, you can double the corpse puppet's power. The weakest one will be at the perfection chi refining realm. When you become more familiar with it, perhaps you can even release a power equivalent to a foundation establishment realm. At that time, it would be very powerful. We want this, we want this. Lu Tianer excitedly shouted. Combining was simply their specialty. We'll trouble senior brother Yunjioga, please help us refine this. Lu Mei also nodded her head. After taking the spirit stones from the Lu family, she said that she wanted to refine an identical corpse puppet for her little sister. But her little sister insisted on using the spirit stones to increase the puppet's quality. She even vowed that she didn't need the corpse before her 9 netherworld Dao body was used up. She couldn't change her little sister's mind, but her heart still felt guilty. Now that her little sister could also control the corpse puppet, it couldn't be any better. Leave the corpse puppet behind and then guard the outside. I'll help you refine it now. Yunjioga decided to be a good person to the end. He would fulfill the Lu sisters' wish today. Many thanks, senior brother. Lu Tianer excitedly left the corpse puppet behind and pulled her sister to guard the entrance. Yunjioga took off the puppet corpse's clothes and then mixed the fish silk grass and white rubber stone into a transparent liquid. He carefully applied it to the core runes of the puppet corpse. That thick liquid quickly turned into a thin film and clearly imprinted the corpse puppet's core runes on it. The thin film of liquid quickly turned into a layer and imprinted the corpse puppet core runes. You don't understand a woman's friendship. Yunjioga carefully removed the membrane and took out the core runes and placed them elsewhere. Yun of monster. Yunjioga slapped Zishang's hand away and pointed to a corner. Go away. Don't disturb me while I'm refining the core. This was her first attempt, and she could not afford to fail. Yunjioga ignored Zishang's shining eyes and pointed to a corner. Go to the side, don't disturb me refining the core. This was her first time, she could not fail. Yunjioga ignored his burning gaze and placed the 2 Yao cores, one big and one small, as well as the dark spirit grass and the puppet flower into the small bronze cauldron. A strand of white bone flame the size of a strand of hair pitifully came out of her hand. The spirit energy she had borrowed from Zishang had already been used up. You don't have enough spirit energy? Zishang meaningfully asked. Less nonsense, hurry up and do it. Yunjioga threw herself at Zishang and sat on his waist to ask for more spirit energy. In order to meet Yunjioga's request, Zishang was working very hard. Naturally his voice was a bit louder. The Lu sisters were standing guard at the entrance. When they heard the movements inside, they couldn't help looking at each other, seeing the sympathy and emotion in each other's eyes. Senior brother Yunjio was too great. In order to help them refine the monster core, he did not hesitate to feed the tiger with his own body. Although that 1,000-year-old corpse was very beautiful, Yin corpses were still Yin corpses. They could be hard and move, but they could not be shot. This made it very painful for the Yin corpses to mate. There was no refreshing feeling at all, it was too pitiful. If there was a chance in the future, they would definitely repay senior brother Yunjio. If Yunjioga, who was fighting in the cave, could hear the Lu sisters' thoughts, she would definitely tell them that it was not bitter at all, it was refreshing in one word. Do you want to do it again? Zishang held Yunjioga in a different position. He let her lean against the wall and he stood behind her. No need, there's no time and I have enough spirit energy. Yunjioga gasped for breath. This kind of method of quickly replenishing spirit energy was very rough. Doing it once in a while was fine, but doing it every day would make her fall apart. Although Zishang felt it was a bit of a pity, he still cooperated. Yunjioga quickly put on her clothes and summoned the white bone flame to refine the core. The third-level monster core kept turning in the pill furnace. The special runes of the monster beast appeared in front of Yunjioga. Those blood-red veins that were as thick as a hair were the key to transporting the spirit energy. What she needed to do was to merge the second-level monster core without destroying the veins. Yunjioga controlled the white bone flame to soften the veins of the third-level monster core, then she gently adjusted it until there was enough space. She used the dark spirit grass and the puppet flower to make the second-level monster core. The third-level monster core had the ability to swallow low-level monster beasts, so it slowly swallowed the other one. In the end, it was only the size of half a baby's fist. But just merging the monster core was not enough, she still needed to carve the same runes as the puppet-Yin corpse. Yunjioga carefully placed the core runes into the pill furnace, perfectly imprinting them onto the core. Is it done like this? Zishang asked in an interested voice. We still need to put in the head of the puppet-Yin corpse. Yunjioga took out her evil weapon knife and skillfully cut open the head of the puppet-Yin corpse. She carefully placed the core in, not stitching it up, leaving it bare. The core is done, you can come in. Yunjioga shouted towards the entrance of the cave. The Lu sisters impatiently walked in. Seeing the twin core in the head of the puppet-Yin corpse, they felt that it was very strange. Let's first bind it with blood and then see if it works. Yunjioga said. The Lu sisters dripped a drop of blood on the pill core to recognize it as its master. A scarlet eye appeared on the Yin corpse puppet's bald face, looking very strange. Not bad, there's even a demon eye. Yunjioga never thought it would have this kind of special effect. The three-eyed demon monkey had to cultivate for 100 years before it could open its demon eye. It could predict danger ahead of time, so it was very useful in battle. These two sisters really made a big profit. Wah, elder sister, I can see it so clearly. Lu Tian'er excitedly shouted. Let's try to have it attack the earth tusk beast. Lu Mei'er pointed at the earth tusk that was gnawing on its claws. All right. Lu Tian'er happily nodded her head and then began to pour in her spiritual energy. Wait a minute. Yunjioga quickly shouted, dual cores were not meant to be used like this. It was a pity she came too late, the Lu sisters had already poured large amounts of spiritual energy into the puppet-Yin corpse. The earth tusk 100 meters away was so scared that it dropped the seeds in its hands, immediately turning around and running back into the cave. But the puppet-Yin corpse had already disappeared without a trace. Chapter 365. Where did my tyrant flower go? Lu Mei realized that she had lost contact with her doll, and her face turned pale with fright. Senior brother Yunjiu, what's going on? Did we get into trouble? Lu Tian'er was very uneasy when she thought of the words, "Stop, just now." We'll talk about this later. Let's find your overlord flower doll first. Normally, Yunjioga would have ridiculed the name of the doll, but now there were more important matters to attend to. But I can't feel its existence anymore. Ever since Lu Mei had swallowed the incantation source, not only could she locate the traces of the demonic sect Old Freak, but her divine sense had also grown a lot. She was unable to find the Overlord flower doll, so it was very likely that it had been destroyed. Don't worry, even if you can't find it, someone else can. Yunjioga looked at Zishang, who was hiding beside him, and asked, "Where did you see the puppet go?" "East." Zishang lazily pointed in a direction. "Since you saw it, why didn't you stop it?" A corpse puppet that ran too fast was not Zishang's match. "I don't want to catch it." Zishang shrugged. He had no interest in catching this stupid thing. Yunjioga was speechless. Zishang was getting lazier and lazier. "Senior brother Yunjiu, let's get the doll back first," Lu Mei advised. Now was not the time to argue. "Yes, yes." Lu Tian'er nodded repeatedly. "Then let's go." Yunjioga didn't dare to delay any longer. He led them all the way to the east. On the way, Lu Tian'er asked, "Senior brother Yunjiu, did we do something wrong? The twin cores have just fused. You have to familiarize yourselves with each other before you can work together. Otherwise, you will lose control," Yunjioga said. "When we get the Overlord flower back, we will definitely cultivate properly." Lu Mei also understood such a simple logic, it was just that she was blinded by happiness. "There's a situation 100 steps ahead," Zishang reminded. Yunjioga slowed down and saw a handsome black-robed man standing under a large tree from afar. His left hand was holding the puppet corpse and his right hand was holding the twin cores, looking at them in the sunlight. The Lu sisters saw their corpses being destroyed and instantly lost all reason. 2 earthen yellow bone spikes shot out from the ground towards the man. Yunjioga also summoned his 4 black bone spurs and rushed forward to provide cover. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Logically speaking, the man should have been caught off guard. However, he easily turned around and a pitch-black dagger appeared behind him, blocking the two's attacks. He was actually a Foundation establishment cultivator. "You are disciples of the corpse sect. After seeing this puppet, the corpse is yours." The man carefully looked at the Lu sisters and Yunjiogu. Then, he pointed at Yunjiogu and shouted in surprise, "If I'm not wrong, you're the lucky person from the corpse sect who obtained a 1,000-year living corpse. You're called Yunjiu, right?" Yunjioga narrowed his eyes. "I didn't expect myself to be so famous." "Of course. After all, you look too special. I recognized you at first glance." The man spread out his hands exaggeratedly and said, "Your great achievements in the corpse sect have already spread throughout the evil sects and demon sections. Especially your 1,000-year living corpse challenging 3 great elders alone, I admire it greatly. I don't know if this one has the honor of seeing the legendary 1,000-year living corpse." The man asked with a smile. "I'm afraid you won't be able to return alive." Yunjioga looked at Zishang, wanting him to make a move. However, Zishang shook his head and said, "This isn't a normal person. Killing him will be very troublesome." Yunjioga finally noticed that Wanli Mingxian seemed to be laughing and laughing like he wasn't on guard. However, he was still maintaining a safe distance from them. She took a closer look, and discovered that although the black clothes Wanli Mingxian was wearing looked ordinary, they were all made of high-grade 3rd-grade ice silk, and the runes were even secretly embroidered. Not only did it have a strong defense, but it also had the ability to conceal one's aura. The black earring on his left ear was made from meditation wood. It could calm one's mind and drive away evil energy. There was also the wrist guard, belt, shoes, and pendant, all of them were high-grade magic tools. He was clearly a nouveau riche. To be able to dress in such a low-key and luxurious manner, he definitely wasn't a normal inner sect disciple. No wonder Zi Shang said killing him would cause endless trouble. Then forget about it. The man continued to smile and said, Junior brother Yunjiu doesn't need to be so nervous. I don't have any evil intentions towards you. That's right, I'm called Wanli Mingxian, I'm an inner sect disciple of the Black Fiend sect. My sect has a good relationship with your Corpse sect. If you don't mind, I'll call you Junior brother. Black Fiend sect. Yunjioga remembered that Yi Rui had been taken away by the Black Fiend sect. He didn't know what the current situation was. Senior brother Yunjiu, this fellow stole our Corpse. We can't let him go so easily. The Lu sisters anxiously shouted. This girl misunderstood, it was this Corpse puppet that suddenly attacked me, that's why I caught it. Wanli Mingxuan's handsome face revealed an expression of being wronged. A grown man acting like this didn't seem strange at all. You can't just destroy it like this. Lu Mei'er loved the Overlord flower like it was her child. Her child being killed naturally made her hate him to the bone. I didn't destroy it, I just felt that its core was very special, so I took it out to take a look. Wanli Mingxian said this as he placed the two cores back into the Corpse puppet's open head. His movements were very nimble and one could tell with a single glance that he was an expert. Lu Mei'er made a hand seal and the Corpse puppet seemed to come back to life as the demon eye appeared on its face. Yeah, there's actually a demon eye. Where did you get this core? Introduce it to me alright? Wanli Mingxian excitedly shouted. We got it from hell, you can go look for it there. Lu Mei'er immediately sent a killing order to the Overlord flower, wanting to kill Wanli Mingxian. She never thought that the Overlord flower would not move at all. I'm sorry, I was afraid that it would run around, so I placed a curse on it. Wanli Mingxian smiled as he lifted the Corpse puppet's clothes, revealing the forbidden character on its back that was shrouded in black qi. What do you want? Yunjioga knit his brows. If Wanli Mingxian dared to have ideas about the Corpse puppet, he couldn't let him go even if he offended the Black Fiend sect. I don't want anything. Wanli Mingxian innocently said, I've been interested in refining since I was young, so I wanted to meet this refining master. In order to show his sincerity, Wanli Mingxian took off the forbidden character on the Corpse puppet and threw it to Yunjioga. Yunjioga received it and carefully looked at it. He found that the two cores were undamaged and the Corpse puppet did not have any tricks on it, so he gave it back to the Lu sisters. Chapter 366. We found these two cores by accident. We don't know who made them. Yunjioga wasn't stupid enough to admit she made them. Alright, if you can find more good stuff like this, come find me. We can discuss the price. I still have things to do, so I'll be leaving first. Mingxian sent a message glyph to Yunjioga, then waved his hand and left. Senior brother Yunjiu, you're letting him go just like that? Lu Mei'er looked at Mingxuan's back unwillingly. She really wanted to stab him. Anyone who broke their secret deserved to die. What if he goes back and blabbers? Lu Tian clenched the bone spear in her hand. Since senior brother Yunjiu didn't want to fight, they could secretly catch up to him and kill him. This Mingxian is not a normal person. If you see him in the future, you better turn around and leave. Yunjioga saw the Lu sisters' faces and told them about Mingxuan's luxurious life. When the Lu sisters heard Mingxuan's body was full of treasures, they showed a pitiful expression. If they could rob a fat sheep like this, they'd be rich. An important character like him would have a divine sense seal placed on him by his elders. It can send back information about his situation before his death. If you don't want to face endless pursuit, you should dispel any thoughts that you shouldn't have, Yunjioga warned. Senior brother Yunjiu, don't worry, we're just thinking about it. We won't do anything stupid. Lu Tian stuck out her tongue and finally gave up. Take this paper crane and the shield. After you get used to using the Overlord flower, go to the middle state and see what's going on. We'll meet up there. Yunjioga still had to go back to Thunder Country, so it wasn't convenient for him to travel with the Lu sisters. Okay, we'll leave as soon as possible. The Lu sisters knew Yunjioga was in a difficult situation at the Corp sect, so they decided to go to the middle state as soon as possible to avoid wasting her time. Don't rush, safety first. Yunjioga reminded. Although the Lu sisters' strength had increased greatly and they had Lu Tian's 9 Hell Dao body to protect them, they still couldn't let their guard down. Senior brother Yunjio, don't worry. We value our lives. Oh right, can you help me see if this soul shock grass has sprouted? Lu Tian took out the small flower pot. The color of the red soil inside was even darker. Other than the frightened human face, the soul shock grass also had a little neck. How did you use it so fast? Yunjioga looked up at Lu Tianer. If this continued, her netherworld Dao physique would soon be transferred to the soul-shocking grass. Just 2 or 3 times. Lu Tianer couldn't wait to get rid of her damned physique as soon as possible, so she used it unscrupulously. Although this flower pot can be used 98 more times, you should take it easy. Yunjioga reminded. Don't worry, senior brother. I know what I'm doing. Lu Tianer put away the small flower pot with a nonchalant expression. It is getting late. I will be heading back first. You fellows should not stay in that cave anymore. Find a safer place. Yunjioga was worried that Wanli Mingxian would come looking for them. Yes. The Lu sisters were very experienced in escaping. They had no less than 5 or 6 residences, so there was no need for Yunjioga to worry. After Yunjioga bid farewell to the 2 sisters, he returned to the Corp sect and spent a few days preparing before informing Jin Chuan that he was going into seclusion. Although Jin Chuan was still cold and indifferent, he still recorded the words, seclusion, on the disciple register for her. Just like that, Yunjioga secretly left the Corp sect and headed towards Thunder Country. 7 days later, at the entrance of Thunder Country's Shangjing city, Yunjioga covered his corpse poison face and disguised himself as a handsome young master. He waved his fan and walked into the city, heading straight to the entrance of the Yun mansion. The majestic black board was still hanging high above, and the 2 words, Yun mansion, shone brightly. Do you plan to swagger in like this to find Mother Qing? Zi Sheng stood beside Yunjioga and asked. I'm not that stupid. Yunjioga came back this time to take a look. If he had nothing to do, he would secretly leave a letter for Mother Qing before going to find Yu. At this moment, the door of the Yun mansion creaked. A little over 7 years old, wearing a golden crown and a brocade robe, with a round head and chubby head, walked out from inside with his head held high. Behind him was a large group of servants, and Pearl was among them. She was carrying a heavy food container as she followed behind the group. Her expression was haggard, and her eyebrows were full of worry. She was not as carefree as she was when Yunjioga was around. She was cute, and she was wearing the green robe of a third-rank servant girl. Walk faster. If you disturb the young master's show, I'll teach you a lesson. A tall and skinny servant girl beside the little fatty turned around and scolded Pearl impatiently. Yes, yes, yes. Pearl nodded and quickened her pace. Such a clumsy person is not fit to serve me. The little fatty pouted unhappily. Young master, please bear with it for now. No matter what, Pearl is a servant left behind by Mother Qing. You can't do anything to her now, but when you have the chance, you must send her far away. The short and fat servant girl advised in a low voice. Pfft, that Mother Qing is just a servant. She really thinks she's half the owner of the Yun mansion. She's always pointing fingers at my father. I'll kill her one day. The little fatty's round face flashed with a fierce light. It was obvious that he was not joking. Young master, there's no need to bother with a servant. Just bear with it. The short and fat servant girl coaxed the little fatty into the Yun mansion's gorgeous carriage. Then, she arranged for the other servants to get on. Pearl was scolded by her again. Finally, she was shoved together with a group of rough servant girls. Yunjioga's face suddenly sank. He never expected to see such a scene. He didn't know where this little fatty came from. He dared to call Mother Qing a servant in the Yun mansion. He even used her personal servant girl, Pearl, as a lowly servant. How dare he? It seems that someone has taken over the Yun mansion. Zi Shang looked like he was watching a good show. The human race was interesting. I'd like to see how firmly he can take over. Yunjioga originally planned to sneak in to find Mother Qing at night, but she couldn't wait any longer. Most of the servants in the Yun mansion were ordinary people. She directly hid her figure and walked in with Zi Shang. After not seeing each other for more than 2 years, there were many servants in the Yun mansion. It was crowded, but Yunjioga didn't recognize many of them. The strangest thing was that the few large courtyards in the backyard all had masters. They were all beautiful women. They considered themselves to be half the owners of the Yun mansion. If she hadn't confirmed that Yi Yuxuan was dead, she would have thought that he had taken in a few more concubines. Her purple forest park was still empty. It was just that the servants inside had been changed. At this time, there were only 2 little servant girls and a skinny mother sitting in the courtyard. They all looked lazy. The corners of the courtyard were covered in dust and no one cleaned them. Yunjioga walked into the remote Mother Qing's room. The bed and quilt inside were all ready. It was just that there was a lot of dust. It seemed that no one had lived here for a long time. What happened in the Yun mansion when she wasn't here? Chapter 367. What are you doing? There's so much dust in the yard and no one cleans it. Let's see how you explain this to eldest miss when she comes back. A familiar voice sounded in the yard. Yunjioga stood outside the window and saw it was Yudai. The little girl had grown into a slender and elegant young lady. She wore an old green robe and looked extremely beautiful. She was already at body refinement realm level 9. You're being wronged, Miss Yudi. We clean the yard every day, but we only have so many people. We have to go out and help the people in sprinkling yard from time to time. We really can't take care of it all, the skinny mother complained. That's right, eldest miss hasn't come back in 2 years. Who knows when she'll come back? It's useless even if she comes back. This Yun manor already belongs to eldest young master. The 2 servant girls also muttered. What nonsense are you saying? Yun manor will always belong to our eldest Mississippi. Yudai was so angry her face turned red. The 2 servant girls immediately didn't dare to say anything. Miss Yudai, why are you showing off in front of us? If you have the ability, go talk to eldest young master. The skinny woman wasn't afraid of Yudai. She took out a handkerchief and fanned her face while saying coldly, but I don't think you dare go. Eldest young master has already given you to the Hu clan. You can only stay here for 2 more days. I advise you to mind your own business. Think about how to get a foothold in the Hu clan. That family isn't easy to get along with. Yudai's face turned green and white, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she picked up a broom and started cleaning. The skinny woman grabbed a handful of melon seeds and started munching on them. The shell of the melon seeds fell to the ground. Clearly, she wanted to make things difficult for Yudai. Yunjioga's face darkened. She didn't think that in the 2 years she left, Yun Manor would be occupied by a group of outsiders. Moreover, he bullied her people so blatantly, as if she was dead. Should we kill these bastards? Zi Shang suggested out of goodwill when he sensed Yunjioga's anger. Yunjioga calmed down instead, no rush. Let me figure things out first. Before she left, she had asked Wan Xiang and Bai Songling to look after Yun Manor. With their temperament, they shouldn't be watching Mother Qing and the others get bullied. There must be another reason. Yunjioga quietly left Yun Manor and came to Wan Xiang's residence. There was a musty smell when he opened the door. The room was empty and dusty. She went out to ask around and found out that Wan Xiang had already left Thunder Country to travel around the various countries. Bai Songling returned to the Bai family and became a general, responsible for guarding the border. However, what shocked her the most was that the one who ascended the throne was actually noble consort Shi, with the title of Empress Shi. The former crown prince, Dongfang Ke, went to the Purple Cloud sect and became the last disciple of the Golden Core elder, Yuan Hua. The status of the emperor of a small country was naturally not comparable to that of the last disciple of a Jindan stage elder. Yun Jioga should be happy for Dongfang Ke's grand plans, but when she thought of the messy Yun family, she could not bring herself to be happy. At night, she finally found out Mother Qing's whereabouts. It turned out that Empress Shi had brought her into the palace to recuperate. "Shall we go in and have a look?" Zi Sheng asked. "There are experts in the palace. I can't get in." The imperial palace was not like the residence of Yun. There were still a few experts. Her shallow invisibility skills were useless. "I'm here, what's there to be afraid of?" Zi Sheng glanced sideways at her. "Then I'll rely on you." This was what Yun Jioga was waiting for. Zi Sheng drew an invisibility talisman for Yun Jioga. He took her to avoid the imperial dragon Qi and sneaked into the back palace. Mother Qing was placed in the side hall of Jinxiu Palace. 2 palace maids were in charge of serving and guarding her. At this moment, the 2 palace maids were chatting and laughing as they embroidered pouches under the window. Mother Qing sat at the side in a daze. Her complexion looked good, and her clothes were clean. She did not look like she had been mistreated. Yun Jioga blew into the room. The 2 palace maids' eyes rolled back, and they softly fell to the ground. "Who?" Mother Qing turned her head, her sunken eyes revealing a fierce glint. "It's me." Yun Jioga appeared in front of Mother Qing. "Eldest Miss." Although Yun Jioga had disguised herself as a man, Mother Qing still recognized her at a glance. She immediately stood up in excitement. What exactly happened in the residence? Who are those people who moved in? Yun Jioga sat down on a chair. Mother Qing sighed and said, "They are people from the side branch of the Yun family." There were still a few cousins in the old master's generation, and they had been obediently guarding the ancestral hall in the village all these years. After Empress Shi ascended to the throne, she said that eldest miss was a girl and did not have any children. Thus, she personally ordered Yun Yanbin, who was from the side branch of the Yun family, to come over to support the facade. Empress Shi. Yun Jioga's eyes darkened. Something as important as adopting a son hadn't even been approved by her, but Empress Shi had hurriedly helped her. She was deliberately supporting a puppet to dominate the Yun family's assets. "Eldest miss, this old servant is useless. I couldn't help you guard the family well." Mother Qing's tears flowed down her face. When Yun Yanbin had first arrived, he had been well educated and reasonable. He had also been very respectful to the old servants. After gaining power, he had married a few wives and concubines, supported them, and interfered in the management of the backyard. He had found all kinds of excuses to get the old servants out. Even Elder Hua had been sent elsewhere. "You don't have to blame yourself. It's not your fault." No matter how much she respected Mother Qing, she was just a servant. It was impossible for her to withstand the pressure of Empress Shi. "Eldest miss, what should we do now?" Mother Qing asked with a frown. Yun Yanbin's surname was Yun too. It wouldn't be easy to get him out. "You don't have to worry about this. Have a good rest. Don't tell anyone that I was here, lest we alert the enemy," Yun Jioga instructed. "Yes, I understand." Mother Qing nodded repeatedly. Yun Jioga left the side hall of Jinxiu Palace and looked at the Palace of Heavenly Purity from afar. That was Empress Shi's residence. "What do you plan to do?" Zi Sheng asked. When Yun Jioga was treating Empress Shi and expelling the poison, he didn't have enough demonic power to transform. Although he was either sleeping or cultivating in the imprint most of the time, He knew that Yunjioga and Empress Shi had a good relationship. Since she's heartless, don't blame me for being unjust, Yunjioga said coldly. In the imperial study of the Palace of Heavenly Purity, the palace lanterns were hung high. Empress Shi was wearing a dragon crown with 9 pearls and a bright yellow dragon robe. She was examining the memorials. Nanny Zhou was no longer beside her. There was only Aunt Hongxiu. Your Majesty, it's late. Please take a rest. Aunt Hongxiu said carefully. Okay, rest. Empress Shi put down the memorials in her hands, pinched her brows, and walked toward her bedroom. Yunjioga stood in the shadows and looked at the sharp and domineering Empress Shi. She had the elegance of a great empress, and she felt extremely unfamiliar. The woman who held her hand and called her Jioga in the courtyard of the Prince of Dongling Palace would never return. Chapter 368. Yunjioga watched as Empress Shi walked into her bedroom. Aren't you going to settle the score with her? Zi Shang's handsome face flickered in the shadows. Only his gray eyes were focused on Yunjioga. It's useless. She's not the only one who wants to take over the Yun family. Yunjioga looked sad. So what if she killed Empress Shi? As long as she wasn't guarding the Yun family, the next empress would do the same. She couldn't change the fact that greed clouded people's minds. If that's the case, why don't you dissolve the Yun family and let your people have a good home? Zi Shang said softly. Yunjioga would go further in the future. There was no need to keep these things holding her back. Yunjioga was a little stunned. Mother Qing and Elder Hua had been bullied by Yi Yuxuan when they were with their mother. Then, she was bullied by Empress Shi again. She had been suffering with the Yun family for most of her life. You're right. After Mother Qing and the others are settled, let them do whatever they want. She had already taken away all the valuable things in the Yun family. What was left was just the old house and some shops. The silver was worthless in her eyes. It didn't matter if they were given to the side branches of the Yun family. It's not suitable for you to do this. Why don't you go to Yi Yu? Aren't you going to give Yi Yunji to him? Zi Shang said patiently. Yunjioga nodded. You're right. Let's go. After leaving the palace, Yunjioga and Zi Shang went to the shadow land of the Yi family. The sky was bright. Golden sunlight shone on the mountaintop. The empty valley in front of them was silent. There were rows of tombstones on the desolate yellow slope. The tombstones at the top were the ancestors of the Yi family. At the bottom was a row of new tombstones. They were the tombstones left behind after the Yi family was exterminated. The shadow land was under the tombstones of the ancestors. Yunjioga followed the clues left by Yi Yu and walked to the tallest tombstone in the middle. Excuse me. Yunjioga cupped her hands and bowed. Then, she grabbed the tombstone and twisted it 3 times. With a soft hum, the ground beneath her feet became empty, and she fell straight down. Zi Shang followed unhurriedly. They landed in an empty cave with Yunjioga in his arms. Above the cave was a row of stalactites that emitted a beautiful light. There was a pitch-black hole in front of him. It looked like the gaping mouth of a monster, and a gust of cold wind blew out of it. This place is interesting. Zi Shang glanced at the cave entrance and pulled Yunjioga's hand. Jioga. Yun. Is there a need to be so serious? She was going to see her little friend, Yi Yu. It was not like she was going to enter some deadly zone, so what danger could there be? There's nothing wrong with being cautious. Zi Shang gripped Yunjioga's hand tightly and refused to let go. All right. Yunjioga stopped resisting and followed Zi Shang into the pitch-black cave. Yunjioga was drowned in darkness the moment he took a step inside. There was no sound at all. It was as if he had been deprived of his sense of sight and smell. If not for the warmth coming from the purple deceased sword, Yunjioga would not have known where he was. The shadow land is so well hidden. Why didn't the Yi family escape here when they were exterminated? Yunjioga asked Zishang. But she found her voice swallowed by the darkness. She squeezed Zishang's hand and tried to send a voice transmission to him. But she found her 5 senses were sealed. She couldn't even send a voice transmission. This was too strange. Yunjioga stopped and reached for her storage bag. She wanted to take out a bone spear to protect herself. But she found that she had lost contact with the storage bag. It felt like she was a blind ghost. She couldn't touch anything. She couldn't see anything. It made her tremble from the bottom of her heart. Yunjioga panicked. She tugged at Zishang's hand and asked him to take her away from this place. She didn't expect Zishang to let go of her hand. Sounds of fighting could be heard in the darkness. Zishang, where are you? Yunjioga waved her hands to help. But she couldn't touch anything. Fortunately, not long after, Zishang took her hand again and walked outside. When the light from the stalactite entered Yunjioga's eyes, she was so excited that she almost cried. What kind of place is this Shadowland? Yunjioga turned to look at Zishang. She saw that he was carrying someone on his shoulder. His hair was messy. His clothes were old and tattered. His body was as thin as a stick. It looked like he could be blown away by a gust of wind. Yunjioga moved the person's messy hair aside and saw a pale face. Although his cheeks were thin, his facial features were still very beautiful. The most eye-catching feature was a red mole between his eyebrows. It was Yi Yu. How did he become like this? Yunjioga was shocked. He's been in there for too long. His body is too weak. Let him rest for a while. Zishang threw Yi Yu to the ground. Be gentle. Yunjioga was afraid that Yi Yu would fall apart. She quickly squatted down to examine him. She found that Yi Yu had reached the cultivation level of a spirit master. However, his body condition was terrible. Not only was he severely dehydrated, but he also showed signs of malnutrition. Although foundation building cultivators could not eat, not eating for a long time was still a huge burden on the body. Yunjioga took out a few bottles of blood replenishing pills from his storage bag and poured them into Yi Yu's mouth. Yi Yu's throat moved and he swallowed them all. However, there were still no signs of him waking up. His body is fine. Why won't he wake up? Yunjioga checked Yi Yu's pulse again. He confirmed that his body had completely recovered under the nourishment of the pills. He should wake up soon. His consciousness is sealed. If we want to wake him up, we have to wake him up. Zishang said. Then what do we do? Yunjioga thought of the dark and gloomy place where all 5 senses were sealed. It was enough to drive a person crazy. Use the blood relationship to wake him up. Zishang's answer was simple and powerful. But Yi Yunji has already become a zombie. She was already dead. Was blood relationship still useful? Yes. Yi Yunji's biggest obsession is to protect her brother. If you take her out, she will naturally know what to do. Zishang said with certainty. All right. Now that things had come to this, they could only try. Yunjioga released Yi Yunji from the corpse refinement bag. The white-haired and ugly Yi Yunji, dressed in a black dress, stood quietly in front of them. Whether Yi Yu can wake up or not depends on you. Yunjioga said. Yi Yunji's expression was wooden. Her eyes were empty. There was no reaction. Yunjioga tried to place Yi Yunji's right hand on Yi Yu's forehead. The seal on Yi Yunji's arm was unlocked. The Grey-Een spirit chi slowly entered Yi Yu's forehead from her fingers. Yi Yu frowned in his coma. The veins on his temples bulged. He looked like he was in great pain. Yunjioga was extremely nervous. He asked Zishang, will something happen? What's the rush? Zishang's calm demeanor finally calmed Yunjioga down. A moment later, a light lullaby suddenly came from Yi Yunji's stomach. The song was melodious, like a mother's soft murmur. Chapter 369. When Yi Yu heard the song, his furrowed brows gradually relaxed and his expression became peaceful. How can she sing? Yunjioga looked at Yi Yunji in shock. Wasn't her soul destroyed? She's a zombie. What's so strange about her singing? Some powerful zombies can even use sound wave attacks to kill without leaving a trace, Zishang said calmly. All right. Yunjioga admitted that she was being too surprised. She lowered her head to observe Yi Yu's pale face. After a while, she looked up and asked Zishang, Yi Yunji has a Yin physique. Is Yi Yu the same? No, he just has a pure martial practitioner physique. Zishang shook his head. That's good. Yunjioga sighed. In the past, she thought that people with special physiques were lucky. Now she knew that treasuring a jade ring was a crime. If one couldn't protect themselves, they would only become meat on the chopping board of the strong. The Lu sisters and Yi Yunji were living examples. Yi Yunji's singing gradually stopped. Yi Yu's eyelashes began to tremble. His eyeballs rolled under his eyelids before he slowly opened his eyes. You're awake. How do you feel? Yunjioga asked with concern. Who are you? She didn't expect Yi Yu to look at her with vigilance. It's only been 2 years and you've completely forgotten about me? Yunjioga's voice returned to normal. She couldn't do anything about her appearance. The illusion grass was too powerful. No matter how she disguised herself, she still looked like a man. Young miss? Yi Yu's voice was still hesitant. It seemed that he still didn't believe her. After all, the handsome young man in front of him didn't look like a woman at all. You don't believe me, but you should believe him. Yunjioga pointed at Zishang, who was leaning against the tree and acting cool. Although Zishang was still in his gray hair and eyes, his powerful aura was unparalleled. Yi Yu was completely relieved. He smiled at Yunjioga and said, I didn't expect you to come back so soon. 2 years? I think you've been living too long. Thinking of this, Yunjioga hurriedly asked, what the hell is that Shadowland? You almost died there. It's a sacred place for cultivation in our tribe. Yi Yu scratched his head and said somewhat embarrassedly, however, only after becoming a spirit master can one enter to cultivate. It has already been 50 years since anyone from our clan has entered. You're really not afraid of death. Yunjioga remembered that when they separated, Yi Yu was only an intermediate spiritualist, which was equivalent to the 5th stage of qi refinement. At that time, he dared to enter the trial ground for foundation establishment cultivators. The ignorant are truly fearless. I didn't expect the Shadowlands to be so powerful. Yi Yu also felt a little scared. Not long after he entered the Shadowland, he gradually lost his 5 senses and consciousness. In the end, he couldn't even leave and could only hold on inside. It was also his good luck that he managed to hold on until his savior arrived. If Yunjioga had come a year later, he would probably only be able to collect his corpse. No matter how powerful a foundation establishment cultivator was, it was impossible for him to abstain from eating for 3 years. If there's a next time, I'll see who's going to save you. Yunjioga cursed. Yi Yu smiled in embarrassment and changed the topic. No matter what, I'm already a spirit master, so I should be able to go to the Yin Corpse sect. There's no need to go, your sister has already passed away and was buried in a sea of flowers. Before she died, she told me to give this Yin Corpse to you. Yunjioga called over Yi Yunji, who was silently guarding him. A sea of flowers. Yi Yu didn't feel the pain and excitement that Yunjioga imagined. He just stared blankly at the ugly Yin corpse with a head full of white hair. That's right. Yunjioga carefully looked at Yi Yu. Could it be that he discovered something? Just now, I dreamt that my sister came to say goodbye to me. She left very peacefully and told me not to be sad for her and to live a good life. Yi Yu revealed a smile. He didn't mind the ugly appearance of the Yin corpse in front of him. Instead, he very gently stroked her white hair and said softly, in the future, I'll call you Xiao Ji. Yunjioga let out a sigh of relief and handed him the corpse refining bag. In the future, treat her well and she will protect you for a lifetime. Many thanks. Yi Yu took the corpse refining bag and put Xiao Ji in according to Yunjioga's instructions. When you're better, help me do something. Help Mother Qing, Jinju, Yudi, and Old Hua. Yunjioga simply explained the current situation. You want to disband the Yun family? Yi Yu was shocked. Wherever I am, the Yun family will be there. Now that it only exists in name, it's better to disband it so they don't have to think about it anymore. Yunjioga made her decision. Yi Yuxuan and the others were dead, Yi Rui had left, and her grandfather was still missing. Her grudges in the Thunder Country had already disappeared, so this was it. Alright, I'll definitely help you. Yi Yu solemnly nodded. You'll be free from now on. The contract she signed with Yi Yu before was now invalid. I've always been free. Yi Yu smiled. The young miss had never ordered him to do anything, so he was indeed very free. That's good. Live the life you want from now on. Yunjioga replied with a smile. I won't be saying goodbye to them. Tell them to take care of themselves for me. There was no need to scare them in her current state. I will. Yi Yu nodded again. Goodbye. Yunjioga waved her hand and went on her way in a carefree manner. She still had a long way to go. As long as Yi Yu and the others continued to cultivate, they would have a chance to meet again. Yi Yu looked at Yunjioga's gradually disappearing figure, but he didn't feel sad at all. Although the young miss didn't need him now, he wouldn't slack off. He had to continue cultivating. I'll go to the 100,000 mountains to find Luo Tian and Junichen. I wonder how they're doing now. But before that, I still have to complete the task that the young miss gave me. Yi Yu's return to Shangjing as a spirit master shocked the entire Thunder Country. Although there were a few spirit masters in the Thunder Country, they were all old men and women. There weren't many as young as him, so he definitely had a bright future. Empress Shi also sent someone to contact him. She wanted to meet him in person and try to rope him in. Yi Yu only sent a sentence to Empress Shi. I'm not interested in people who bite the hand that feeds them and burn their bridges. Empress Shi didn't dare to say anything. Not long after, Mother Qing disappeared from the palace and appeared in her hometown in Suzhou, thousands of miles away. She was conferred the title of matriarch by her niece and nephew. Elder Hua, who was patrolling the shops outside, officially resigned from his position as the old butler of the Yun family. He established a small martial arts school in his hometown and took in a few good disciples. Yu Dai originally wanted to marry Yu Dai as a concubine, but she said she couldn't match her status. She personally came to apologize and returned the slave contract. Yu Dai tore the slave contract and found a small shop in Alchemy City with Hua Dai's spirit tablet. She started a medicine business, specializing in bone-opening medicine. Her business grew bigger and bigger. Jinju got rid of her slave status and returned to her hometown. She married her childhood sweetheart and bought a dozen acres of fertile land, becoming a local tycoon. When Mother Qing and the others were properly settled, Yunjioga had already set off for the Central Plains. Chapter 370. Yunjioga sped along the way, traversing mountains and ridges. Finally, after 5 days, he arrived at the middle ground. She still maintained the appearance of a young man, with the sword pellet that Bailey Moyun had given her hanging on her waist, and the spirit sword on her back. She completely looked like a young sword cultivator who had descended to the mortal world to gain experience. The Central Plains did not have many things, but it had the most robberies. A newbie like Yunjioga was simply a fat sheep sent to their doorstep. Unfortunately, this little fat sheep had a ferocious shepherd, and all the robbers were killed by Zishang. TSK, another pauper. Yunjioga killed off the 38th robber. After checking the storage pouch, he shook his head in disappointment. Aren't you satisfied that you picked it up for free? Zishang flicked Yunjioga's forehead. Yunjioga rubbed his head indifferently and headed towards the Central State East Pavilion. After she had written to the Lu sisters this morning, they had decided to meet at the Tongfu Inn in the Eastern Square. The East Square room was very majestic and imposing. The gray walls stretched for a few miles, and there were golden core cultivators standing guard on top of the walls. From time to time, their auras would sweep across the entire room, warning those who wanted to cause trouble to be careful. There were also 2 teams of soldiers standing guard at the tall city gate. They were both at the 5th level of Qi Disciple. Regardless of cultivation level, everyone who entered the square had to pay a spirit jade as a fee, even Foundation establishment cultivators were no exception. Yunjioga handed over a piece of spirit jade and the city guard let her in. The streets inside were bustling with people coming and going. One of them wore a black cloak, and it was obvious that he was a cultivator from an evil sect. There were also decent people who carried spirit swords or talismans on their backs. The shops on both sides of the street were also selling a complete range of items. Spirit pills, pills, spirit artifacts, dharma artifacts, evil artifacts, there was everything one could think of. Yunjioga was dazzled by the variety. She looked around as she walked. When she passed by a talisman embroidery shop, she went in and bought a set of 3 black cloaks. This cloak was embroidered with the talisman markings of Qi restraining, illusion, and spirit concealment. Not only was it able to conceal one's appearance and figure when worn, it was also able to conceal one's true cultivation. 20 spirit stones for one was not cheap. Yunjioga rolled up her sleeves and haggled for a long time. She only managed to reduce the price to 15 spirit stones per item. It was so expensive that she felt her heart ache. But no matter how expensive it was, he had to buy it. After all, Zi Shang only knew how to carve and not embroider. He even despised the idea that only women were good at embroidery. By the time she arrived at Tongfu Inn, the sky was already dark, but the Lu sisters hadn't arrived yet. How much is the accommodation? Yunjioga asked the stout innkeeper. 3 spirit stones per night for the upper room, 2 spirit stones for the middle room, and 1 spirit stone for the lower room. The short and fat shopkeeper said without raising his head while counting the golden abacus in his hand. So expensive? Yunjioga frowned. Along the way, she had also stayed in inns, and the best room was only 500 spirit jades a night. However, the superior room here was actually 3,000 spirit jades. This was daylight robbery. Dear customer, our superior room here is very rich in spirit qi, which is very convenient for cultivation. Moreover, recently our central continent has been very short on housing, and now there are only a few rooms left. If you don't hurry up and book a room, I'm afraid there won't be any room left. The innkeeper raised his head and looked at Yunjioga, revealing a meaningful smile. It is very dangerous for us in the central state not to stay in an inn at night. Yunjioga was not afraid of danger, but she was afraid of missing the Lu sisters. However, there were indeed many people in this inn, and the lobby downstairs was basically full. All right, give me a middle room. Fortunately, she had robbed quite a few people on her way here, or else she really couldn't afford to stay here. All right, a middle room. Dear customer, do you want to eat downstairs or in the guest room? Our inn's spiritual cuisine is also very good. The innkeeper's attitude was much warmer. Downstairs then. Yunjioga's gaze swept across the crowded lobby. This was a good place to obtain information. All right, little Lin, take this customer to the 7th middle room. The innkeeper gave Yunjioga a token and had the inn's waiter take her upstairs. This middle room was quite spacious, and the furnishings were very clean and tidy. There were even a few water spirit flowers in the corner, and the faint spirit qi in the air was not bad. However, it was not good for cultivation. Yunjioga was not in a hurry to go downstairs. Instead, she sent a message to the Lu sisters, saying that she was staying in the 7th middle room. The Lu sisters quickly replied, saying that they would be back in an hour. Yunjioga put down the communication talisman and asked Zi Shang, who was sitting at the table drinking tea, "Are there any dangerous people in this inn?" For a small shrimp like you, every one of them is dangerous, Zishang said plainly. It wasn't that he looked down on Yunjioga, but chi refinement cultivators like her who came out alone had all died on the way. Don't I have you? Yunjioga giggled and hugged Zishang's shoulder. During this period of time, Zishang's personality had changed, and he no longer flirted with Yunjioga. His personality was much more mature, and Yunjioga began to call him brother. She was getting more and more used to her identity as a man. There are many foundation establishment cultivators downstairs, and they have a few chi refinement disciples with them. Take a closer look later, you might be able to see something. Zishang put down his teacup and began to advise Yunjioga. I'll go down now. Yunjioga was instantly interested. The lobby was almost full, and Yunjioga finally found a corner with great difficulty. The moment he sat down, a middle-aged foundation establishment cultivator with a long sword on his back and 3 strands of beard on his chin walked over and asked, "Little brother, is there someone sitting here?" "No, please take a seat, senior." Yunjioga replied politely, but his heart was on guard. In this world where the one with the biggest fist had the final say, cultivation represented everything. Foundation establishment cultivators had always looked down on chi refinement disciples, and their tone was either condescending or bossy. There were no exceptions. It was really unusual for this middle-aged man to be so polite to him. "My surname is Lin. May I know your surname, little brother?" The middle-aged swordsman asked while stroking his beard. "My surname is Yun." Yunjioga replied simply. "Seeing that you have a long sword on your back, I see that you're also a fellow Taoist." The middle-aged swordsman and Yunjioga exchanged a few words, and then pretended to ask casually, "The rent here isn't cheap. It's a bit of a waste for little brother to live alone. I have 2 friends who will come over later." Yunjioga said. "Oh, are they also sword cultivators?" "No." Yunjioga shook his head. "Little brother, don't be nervous. I mean no harm. It's just that when we're outside, we must unite as fellow Taoists." The middle-aged swordsman said a bunch of nonsense again, and then got to the point. "I have an errand here that requires chi refinement disciples' help. I wonder if little brother is interested?" "Oh, what errand is it?" Yunjioga raised his eyebrows and asked. "Do you see those chi refinement cultivators?" The swordsman in the middle signaled Yunjioga to look at the lobby with his eyes. "Here comes the meat show." Yunjioga perked up and quickly asked, "I see them. I didn't expect so many seniors to bring their juniors here to cultivate. Is there something special happening here?" Chapter 371. Little brother, you are indeed smart. Actually, we found a ruin near the middle continent, but only chi refinement stage cultivators can enter. Are you interested in working with us? The middle-aged cultivator asked. Middle continent ruins? Yunjioga's pupils shrank. He didn't know if this ruin was the same as the one the Lu sisters were talking about. If it was the same mystic realm, then wouldn't they have come here for nothing? Little brother, you've heard of the middle continent ruins? The middle-aged sword cultivator raised his eyebrows. No, I just feel that it's a little strange. Since this ruin is so important, why didn't the cultivators of the Middle Continent Alliance come out to organize it? Instead, they sent us rogue cultivators. The Middle Continent was a fat piece of meat that was split between the righteous and evil sections. Naturally, the Middle Continent Alliance also sent people out. However, this ruin is too big. They can't take all of it, so they let us take advantage of it. I still have a few spots here. If you are interested, I can sign a contract with you. You just have to split the loot with me, the middle-aged cultivator said patiently. I'll have to discuss this with my companions, Yunjioga said with a troubled expression. All right, then I'll wait for your good news. The middle-aged sword cultivator left a communication talisman and left. Yunjioga kept the talisman. He didn't want to stay any longer, so he went upstairs and returned to the house. How did this ruin become known to everyone? Yunjioga was very annoyed. We'll know when those two girls come back. Zi Shang wasn't in a hurry. Yunjioga looked at the time. It wasn't long now. A moment later, there was a knock on the door. Who is it? Yunjioga asked. It's me. Lu Mei's voice sounded. Yunjioga opened the door and was instantly shocked. He saw two dark-skinned, pockmarked, squinting eyes, bulbous noses, sausage mouths, and skinny women standing at the door. They were so ugly that it would make one nauseous. They were the Lu sisters. However, what surprised Yunjioga the most was the handsome man in black standing behind them. It was actually Wanli Mingxian. How did you guys end up together? Yunjioga cried out. Junior brother Yunjio, you've misunderstood. There's nothing going on between me and junior sister Lu. Wanli Mingxian hurriedly waved his hand. Even though he was an evil cultivator, he still cared about his reputation. Senior brother Wanli doesn't like us small fries. Lu Tianer touched the pockmarks on her face and winked at Wanli Mingxian. The falling flowers yearn for love, but the heartless brook is heartless. Lu Mei pouted. She seemed to be very familiar with Wanli Mingxian. Indeed, a woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Who could have guessed that a dozen or so days ago, the two sisters had looked like they could not wait to kill Wanli Mingxian. Junior sister Lu really likes to joke. Wanli Mingxian displayed a very reserved appearance in the face of the Lu sisters' teasing. Let's talk inside. Yunjioga waved his hand. After the two sisters entered the house, they sat in front of Wanli Mingxian and told him how they met. It turned out that when the two sisters came over, they accidentally provoked a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator. When they were fleeing for their lives, Wanli Mingxian had saved them. Only then did they travel together. It's all thanks to senior brother Wanli's care. It saved us a lot of trouble. The Lu sisters said with a serious expression. Junior sister Lu is too kind. Wanli Mingxian shook his head. We'll talk about this later. Have you heard about the Middle Continent ruins? Yunjioga told them about how he was recruited downstairs. Then, he placed the communication talisman left behind by the middle-aged cultivator on the table and said, there must be something fishy about this. Not long after we arrived at the Middle Continent, we heard that the ruins had already been discovered. The Middle Continent Alliance gathered many foundation establishment cultivators and gave each of them 3 spots. They required at least 3 chi condensation cultivators to be allowed to enter the secret realm. Senior brother Wanli has already received the token. When the Lu sisters found out about this, they were also dumbfounded. Fortunately, Wanli Mingxian was there. Otherwise, they would have to return empty-handed. 3 years ago, I heard that the Middle Continent ruins would be opened this year. Junior sister Lu's father also received the news at that time. It's very likely that the Middle Continent Alliance had already started making arrangements 3 years ago. Wanli Mingxian also analyzed the situation. Yunjioga's fingers could not help but lightly tap the table. It was very obvious that the news of the ruins had been deliberately released by the Middle Continent Alliance. Why did they need so many foundation establishment cultivators and chi condensation cultivators? Senior brother Yunjio, are we still going to stay here? Although the Lu sisters were very close to Wanli Mingxian, they still trusted Yunjioga the most. If Yunjioga said he wanted to leave, they definitely would not stay. What do you think, brother Wanli? Yunjioga looked at Wanli Mingxian. Cultivators like us fight against the heavens and humans. The opportunity is right in front of me, I won't retreat so easily. Wanli Mingxian shook his head. He still owed a huge debt and was just waiting for this opportunity to make a fortune. But that middle-aged cultivator just said that you foundation establishment cultivators can't enter, Yunjioga said. Listen to his bullshit. Wanli Mingxian had a look of disdain. If foundation establishment cultivators couldn't enter, why would they be so proactive in helping the Middle Continent Alliance find Qi condensation disciples? Yun Jioge pondered for a moment, then looked at Zi Shang, who was invisible and sitting beside him. The Lu sisters could not help but look over as well. Although they could not see anything, they still felt a little nervous. Go. Zi Shang nodded. All right. Since that's the case, let's stay and observe the situation. With Zi Shang around, there was nothing to be afraid of. That's great. The Lu sisters nodded excitedly. Although the two sisters said it in a carefree manner, they were also very unwilling to leave just like that. The Middle Continent Alliance will be organized in 3 days. When the time comes, you just have to follow me to participate. Wanli Mingxian had already asked around. He felt that he was very lucky to be able to meet these 3 people. Otherwise, he might have to spend a lot of effort to enter the ruins. In the next 3 days, whenever Yun Jioge and the Lu sisters went out to ask around, they would always run into Foundation establishment cultivators who wanted to hire them to go to the ruins. For example, the middle-aged swordsman could be politely brushed off. Those with a domineering temper would directly threaten and bribe them. At this time, it was Wanli Mingxian who stood up for them. Fortunately, fighting was prohibited in the workshop. Otherwise, many lives would have been lost. Apart from asking around, the 3 of them also went to the Middle Continent workshop to search for treasures. Many cultivators would set up stalls at the free market in the west of the Middle Continent after robbing or picking up things that they did not want. It was much cheaper than in the Xian workshop. Of course, there were always fakes when searching for treasures. However, Yun Jioge had extraordinary eyesight, so he could always tell whether a treasure was real or fake. For example, the coral earrings that Lu Mei was holding were said to have been worn by a succubus before. They could increase one's charm ability. Chapter 372. This coral is fake, it's just an ordinary spiritual coral. 50 spirit stones is simply a scam. Yun Jioge ignored the ugly expression of the stall owner and pulled the reluctant Lu Mei away. Walking to a stall with a pile of accessories, Yun Jioge squatted down and started to search. In the end, he picked up a purple veil embroidered with cloud patterns and said to Lu Mei, this is more suitable for you. This veil could automatically produce cloud qi. Apart from nourishing the skin, it could also block all kinds of qi from invading. More importantly, it was several times cheaper than earrings. It could be bought for only 50 spirit stones. It was practically free. Okay, I want this. Lu Mei trusted Yun Jioge's taste. What about me? Lu Tian pouted. This one. Yun Jioge picked up a red sandalwood hairpin. Not only could it moisturize black hair and keep it clean, it could also form a protective cover to protect the head in times of danger. Although the function was a bit useless, the price of 50 spirit stones was a huge profit. Lu Tian was also very satisfied with this hairpin. Compared to buying a good thing, she was happier that she got a big bargain. Yun Jioge's eyes swept around and was attracted by a pair of worn-out black wings. It looked very similar to the pair of flying magic tools she saw in the 1,000 Treasure Tower. However, the quality was slightly better. She was now at the 7th level of Qi Disciple and could already fly with magic tools. However, the speed of the bone spur was very slow and was far worse than a flying magic tool. This is a rank 3 bat wing. It was refined from the bones of a wind bat. Now it's selling at a loss for only 300 spirit stones. The stall owner enthusiastically called out. A few of these bat bones are broken. Moreover, more than half of the runic patterns on it have been erased. Can it still be used? Yun Jioge picked it up and looked at it carefully. Of course it can be used. If it was complete, it could be sold for at least 700 spirit stones. It's already a big loss for me to charge you 300 spirit stones. The stall owner said with a pained expression. Please, a flying magic tool that can be sold for 700 spirit stones is just refined. How can this broken thing that you picked up from God and knows where compare? That's right. You still have the nerve to sell it for 300 spirit stones. I think it's worth 50 spirit stones at most. The Lu sisters also rolled up their sleeves and joined in the haggling. After a fierce battle of words, Yunjioga finally bought the pair of bat wings for 150 spirit stones. The Lu sisters also took a fancy to the veil and the wooden hairpin as extras. When Yunjioga returned to the inn, she went to ask Zishang to help her repair the runes on the bat stinger. Collecting junk all day long, and you still have the nerve to ask me for help? Although Zishang scolded her, he still helped her complete the runes in the end. Yunjioga secretly tried it out, and it was very effective. In just a moment, it could fly 10 miles away. It was definitely a life-saving treasure. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the central state to assemble. These are for you. Yunjioga gave the Lu sisters each one of the black cloaks he had bought. It's too expensive. Lu Mei refused again and again. They had spent a lot of money on this journey, so they didn't have any more money to buy these things. This is for you. You don't have to pay for it. Yunjioga already knew that the Lu sisters were poor. Thank you, senior brother. Senior brother is really a good person. The Lu sisters immediately received it excitedly and began to study the runes on it. Wow, this can adjust the body shape. I want to adjust into a muscular man. Lu Tian immediately began to adjust, and the black cloak immediately became longer and wider. Use it wisely. This is not cheap. Yunjioga still couldn't help but say a few words. I originally wanted to buy it at the Myriad Treasure Tower, but that place is too black-hearted. It wasn't easy to get it from a small store. So black-hearted. Then let's not go there in the future. The Lu sisters and Yunjioga shared a common enemy. The Myriad Treasure Tower's young master touched his nose and hurriedly changed the topic. It's getting late. Let's hurry over. Let's go. Yunjioga and the Lu sisters put on the cloaks and transformed into 3 muscular men. They followed behind Wan Mingxian, and they looked to be half a head taller than him. Cough, cough. Wan Mingxian couldn't help but cough twice before saying seriously, we still need to verify our cultivation when we go over later. We can't wear this cloak now. Let's keep it until we enter the ruins. All right. The Lu sisters reluctantly took off the cloaks, but they still kept the disguise of ugly women on their faces. It's best not to keep the disguise. Wan Mingxian had a troubled expression. Although the gathering order didn't say it very clearly, such a simple disguise could still be easily picked apart. No, there are so many bad people there. What if they covet our beauty? The Lu sisters refused to show their true faces. But your looks are too fake. Wan Mingxian was helpless. Even his toes could see that it was fake. Come, come, come. I'll help you change it. Changing her appearance was simply a piece of cake for Yunjioga. She took off the Lu sisters' coarse disguise, took out some medicinal liquid and smeared it on. Then, she changed her clothes and immediately transformed. Not bad. Wan Mingxian took a look and nodded in agreement. It's very unique in its ugliness. Lu Mei's skin was slightly dark. She had thick eyebrows, small eyes, a flat nose, a big mouth, and a square chin. When she smiled, she revealed a mouth full of yellow teeth. Lu Tian's eyebrows were sparse, and the distance between her eyes was very wide. When she smiled, she looked like an infatuated fool. The 2 sisters threw flirtatious glances at Wan Mingxian at the same time. Let's go, let's go. Wan Mingxian didn't dare to look anymore. He turned around and ran out the door. The Middle Ground Ruins was a wasteland 100 miles away from the workshop. At this time, a simple and crude yellow city had already been built on the wasteland, enclosing the entire ruins. Groups of soldiers patrolled on top of the mud walls. The leaders were all middle-stage Foundation establishment cultivators. The security was even tighter than the workshop. The guard was an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. He had a long thin face, small eyes, and a small mustache above his lips. He took Wan Mingxuan's pass and examined it carefully. Then, he looked behind him and said, "Only these three?" "Yes, senior." The Lu sisters immediately winked at him. The small mustache's face twitched. He hurriedly looked away and said to a soldier beside him, "Bring them in." "Yes." A soldier at the third level of qi condensation led Yunjioga and the others inside. They followed the yellow walkway and turned a few corners before arriving at an open space. They were surrounded by mud walls that were 20 feet tall. Below their feet was a brown land overgrown with weeds. Not far away, there was an earthy yellow platform. On it, there were 3 large flags of the Central Ground Alliance with a black background and a red heart. 6 Foundation establishment cultivators wearing black masks guarded the platform. There were already 5 Foundation establishment cultivators gathered in the open space. Behind each of them were 3 qi condensation cultivators. The middle-aged sword cultivator who contacted Yunjioga a few days ago was also there. When he saw her from afar, he nodded at her. Yunjioga also nodded in return. She swept her gaze around and found that most of the people here were itinerant cultivators and righteous cultivators. There was actually no one from the evil sections. Chapter 373. I heard that the evil sects are gathering in another place, Wanli Mingxian said softly. He had been pretending to be a swordsman all this time, which was why he had gathered here. I see. Although Yunjioga was a little surprised, she did not sense anything wrong. The evil sects and the righteous sects had always been at odds, so it was normal for them to make arrangements separately. I heard that the Central Continent Alliance sent out a total of 18 communication talismans, Wanli Mingxian said softly. If we can find 3 qi refinement disciples among these 18 people, there will be 62 people. Including the Central Continent Alliance's own people, that's too many. Although Yunjioga had never entered the ruins, she knew that it was different from a mystic realm. It would not be very big, and there would not be many things, but they would all be of high quality. With so many people going in, there will definitely be a fight. Wanli Mingxian was very experienced in this. He reminded the Lu sisters, "If we get separated when we go in, you must protect yourselves. Otherwise, you will be the first to die." The Lu sisters nodded solemnly. Fortunately, Lu Mei had the Overlord flower, and Lu Tian had the 9 Yudao body. Even if the 2 of them were unfortunately separated, they would not immediately become cannon fodder. It would not be a problem for them to hide for a while. As for Yunjioga, they did not have to worry. Unless Zishang left on his own, they would not get lost anywhere. At that moment, Zishang was looking at the yellow earth wall around him with a solemn expression. "What's wrong? Is there a problem?" Yunjioga asked. "I'm wondering where the ruins are." Zishang replied. "It should be behind the wall." Yunjioga guessed. "No." Zishang shook his head and asked Yunjioga, "Don't you feel that the circulation of spirit energy here is very slow?" Yunjioga tried and found that it was really as Zishang said. She also scanned the surroundings. The qi refinement cultivators were all excitedly preparing to enter the ruins and did not find anything strange. "Is there an array formation carved down here?" Yunjioga rubbed the ground with her feet and did not find anything strange. Zishang shook his head and looked at the earthen yellow platform. Yunjioga followed his gaze and saw the few Foundation establishment cultivators looking at the people on the ground with fierce eyes. Noticing Yunjioga's gaze, he immediately glared back at Yunjioga, as if saying, "What are you looking at? Be careful that I don't make things difficult for you." "What's wrong?" the Lu sisters whispered. "I'm fine." Yunjioga retracted his gaze as if nothing had happened. He began to be vigilant of his surroundings. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, the remaining 3 Foundation Establishment cultivators brought the Qi condensation cultivators over one after another. Everyone was finally here. It's almost time for the ruins to be opened. Foundation Establishment cultivators, go ahead and discuss some matters. Qi gathering cultivators, wait here. A man as tall and strong as an iron tower walked onto the platform and said loudly, "I'm going over. You guys be careful." Wanli Mingxian gave a few more instructions before following the cultivators of the Central State Alliance with the other Foundation Establishment cultivators. Come and get your tokens. You'll need them to enter the ruins later. The towering man called the Qi training disciples to gather on the high platform. The Qi condensation cultivators gathered around them. Just as the Lu sisters were about to step forward, they were pulled back by Yunjioge. "Be careful. There's something wrong here." The Lu sisters instinctively trusted Yunjioge. They immediately took out bone spikes from their storage pouches and held them in their hands, forming a defensive formation. Yunjioge stared at the high platform. He noticed that after the Qi training cultivators gathered, the large flags on the high platform began to flutter even though there was no wind. Several rays of light spread along the surrounding mud walls. The air became heavy and moist. The spiritual energy that was already having a hard time circulating became even heavier. "You 3 over there. Hurry up and come over." The towering man pointed at Yunjioge and the other 2. Yunjioge took a step back instead. He shouted to the Qi training disciples, "Everyone be careful. There's an ambush on the high platform." The Qi training disciples who were collecting tokens immediately became restless. They cautiously retreated, but were stopped by the Foundation Establishment cultivators on the high platform. The towering man's eyes narrowed. A vicious glint shot out from them. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Yunjioge and the others. With a wave of his right hand, a black hook flew out from his storage pouch towards Yunjioge's chest. Yunjioge summoned his 4 bone spikes to block. With a few popping sounds, the 4 bone spikes were instantly destroyed by the small iron hook. Yunjioge's pupils shrank. His heart was filled with shock. Although her 4 bone spikes were low level, they weren't ordinary. They couldn't even block a single move. This towering cultivator was too strong. "Senior apprentice brother, be careful." The Lu sisters pinched their fingers and the puppet Een corpse fell to the ground. It opened its mouth and spat out a red light to block the small iron hook. "Een corpse sect?" The towering man was stunned when he saw the puppet Een corpse. He immediately revealed a cruel smile, "Then I can't let you live." His aura instantly soared as he advanced from the early Foundation Establishment stage to the middle Foundation Establishment stage. The Lu sisters' faces turned white with fear. If he was at the early Foundation Establishment stage, they could still fight, but if he was at the middle Foundation Establishment stage, he would die without a doubt. Yunjioge looked at Zishang and saw him looking at the high platform with a serious expression. At some unknown time, the large flag on the high platform flew into the air and turned into a giant black light screen that covered all the Qi training disciples. The light screen was filled with a black and red fog. The Qi training disciples that were touched by the fog let out pitiful cries as they exploded like fireworks and turned into a blood mist. The surrounding tall earthen walls instantly collapsed, revealing the blood-red runes within. Waves of red light spread out like a tide. Yunjioge was shocked to find that they were already at the center of the ruins. This high platform was using the flesh and blood of the Qi training cultivators to open the exit of the ruins. The earth shook and a palace rose from the center of the earth. The black and red fog completely covered the palace. Without a special token from the Central State Alliance, it was impossible to safely pass through this fog. The towering cultivator was a bit anxious. The ruins had already appeared and if he couldn't make it in time, it would be a big loss. He had to quickly kill these 3 ants in front of him. He quickly increased his attacks and the iron hook released a life-chasing black chi. Yunjioga took out his demonic blade and began to fight with the iron hook. The Lu sisters released their small shields and the Overlord flower stood on the side. The three of them worked together to defend, completely blocking the attacks of the small iron hook. The towering cultivator's eyes flashed with a fierce glow as he bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood at the life-chasing devil hook. The life-chasing devil hook instantly grew to a size of 10 meters and was covered in a thick black chi. It whizzed towards Yunjioga and the others. Yunjioga quickly formed a hand seal and condensed the demonic blade into a blood-red long blade. He rushed forward without hesitation. Just as the two of them were about to collide, the small black hook suddenly stopped and fell to the ground. The towering cultivator's eyes bulged with blood. He lowered his head in disbelief and saw a white palm appear on his chest. Chapter 374. The towering man suddenly turned his head and saw a man with gray hair and gray eyes, a stunning beauty, and a cold expression, pinching his heart. Her fair, jade-like palms made his heart look even redder than before. Zisheng clenched his hand, and the heart shattered into a puddle of blood. The towering man fell to the ground. Before he died, he thought, "So my heart is red too?" Zisheng shook his hand in disgust, and the blood gathered and fell to the ground. Yunjioga gulped. Every time he saw Zisheng dig out someone's heart, he felt so cruel, and his chest hurt. "What are you standing there for?" Zisheng pointed at the towering man's storage bag. Yunjioga's chest immediately stopped hurting, and he happily picked up the man's storage bag, not forgetting to take the small black iron hook. Lu Mei commanded the Overlord flower to devour the towering man's flesh and heart. "Let's see what's inside." Yunjioga handed the cultivator's storage bag to Zisheng. She couldn't get rid of the mid-stage foundation establishment divine sense. Zisheng helped her open the storage bag, and took out a black bracelet. This should be the token to pass through the fog. "Then let's go take a look." Thinking that the ruins were on the other side, Yunjioga instantly felt a little excited. "Put on your bat wings." Zisheng threw the storage bag to Yunjioga. Yunjioga put away the storage bag, and put on the bat wings. The Lu sisters also held the paper crane in their hands, ready to escape at any time. "Let's go." Zisheng activated the black bracelet, and a faint screen of light enveloped Yunjioga and the others, then they walked into the black light. The black light screen was filled with countless wind blades and tiny black gas, which attacked them like a storm. Purple Decease sword then sent out a cloud of purple mist, which blocked the terrifying black chi outside. After a while, Yunjioga and the others finally reached the edge of the light screen. From afar, they could see that the ruins were majestic, and there were more than 10 entrances. Dozens of spiritual lights flew towards the entrance of the palace, all of them mid-stage foundation establishment cultivation. They didn't know how Bailey Mingxian was doing. "Senior brother Yunjiu, are we still going in?" Lu Tian's voice was filled with anticipation and fear. With their cultivation, it was extremely dangerous to snatch food from a foundation establishment cultivator's mouth, but what if they really got it? He got a little excited at the thought. "Many of these cultivators are from the Central State Alliance. We won't even be enough to fill their teeth." Yunjioga didn't want to expose Zisheng's existence. "Then forget it." Lu Mei decisively gave up. Now that they had the Overlord flower, if they were to cultivate it properly, their future would be limitless. Zisheng wore an indifferent expression. If Yunjioga wanted to go, then he would follow. If not, then he would return home. "Let's see if we can find Wanli Mingxian. If he could team up with him, he could give it a try." Yunjioga squatted down and waited for a long time. He saw the palace's entrance begin to blur, and the entrance was about to close. However, he still did not see Wanli Mingxian's shadow. "Senior brother, let's go." The Lu sisters also gave up. "All right." Yunjioga could only give up. At this time, the storage pouch on her waist suddenly moved, and the small bronze cauldron flew out with a swoosh. Like a meteor chasing after the sun, it flew towards the gradually disappearing entrance of the palace. Tisk! Yunjioga subconsciously activated his bat wings, transforming into a shooting star as he charged into the cauldron. Senior Marshal Brother. Seeing this, the Lu sisters gritted their teeth and released their paper cranes to follow him in. They really know how to cause trouble. Zishang frowned. His figure was even faster than the Lu sisters, and he instantly passed through the entrance of the palace. The entrance was filled with confusion. Zishang pinched his fingers and calculated, then he chased towards the east. Yunjioga looked left and right in the palace but could not find the small bronze cauldron. He shouted, "Small cauldron, where are you?" "Stop shouting." Zishang rushed over and pulled Yunjioga to the ground. With a dark expression, he scolded, "Do you want to die? How dare you barge in with your head covered?" If they had not made a contract, he would not have been able to find her. "I can't find the miniature bronze cauldron." Yunjioga was truly anxious. "Check to see if the fat rat is still there," Zishang reminded him. Yunjioga took out the spirit beast pouch and saw the treasure-seeking scorpion couple hugging each other and sleeping. The pink cocoon did not change at all, and the place that belonged to the pippy rat was empty. It seemed like the small bronze cauldron had taken it away. Did I not treat them well? Why did they run? Yunjioga was very angry. He felt like he had raised an ingrate. Perhaps there is something in the ruins that attracted it. Zishang looked around. There was a vast fog all around, and he could not see the end of it. What could it be? Yunjioga's eyes lit up. The small bronze cauldron and the pippy rat were both good items. Something that could attract them here had to be a treasure among treasures. Let the treasure-seeking scorpion search. Zishang directly summoned the scorpion. The scorpion twisted its fat body and climbed up the pouch to Yunjioga's shoulder. It asked, "Lord, why did you summon me?" "See if there are any treasures here," Yunjioga instructed. The scorpion landed on the ground and swung its thick stinger around. It said in a daze, "Lord, I didn't find any treasures. The spiritual chi here seems to be blocked by something. Treasures really aren't that easy to get." Yunjioga was not discouraged. After summoning the scorpion back, she remembered something. Oh right, where are the Lu sisters? She had been in a hurry to run and had forgotten to greet the two sisters. They were probably anxious now. "They flew in with you." Zishang had been focused on chasing after Yunjioga and was not in the mood to take care of the two sisters. "Then let's go find them first." This ruins was so strange, and there were so many enemies. If there was no one to protect them, the Lu sisters would be in great danger. Right, west. Zishang had vaguely seen the Lu sisters teleport in that direction. Yunjioga flapped her wings and flew west with Zishang. After flying for a while, the fog in front of them gradually dissipated, and a small village appeared out of nowhere. Straw huts were scattered at the front and back of the village. Skinny Dog was lying in front of the door with its tongue hanging out. A few old cows were pulling pears in the fields. The faces of the farmers were full of worries, and their clothes were also covered with patches. One look and you could tell that they were from an extremely poor family. The crops in the fields were sparse and dry, indicating that it was not the harvest season this year. An old woman with gray temples and a face full of hardships was sitting by the side of the field, wiping away her tears. She looked very sad. The scene in front of her was too real. For a moment, Yunjioga felt like she had come to the wrong place. This is an illusion. Zishang saw through it with a glance. Let's go down and take a look. Yunjioga believed that this illusion would not appear for no reason. Chapter 375. Yunjioga pulled Zishang to the ground and walked towards the old woman who was wiping away her tears. He asked, "Auntie, what is this place?" Why are you crying out of nowhere? Our village is called Stone Village. Today, the land is dry, and our crops can't survive. My old man is sick, so I can only sell my daughter to Lu Yuanwei in town to be his second wife. I got 10 taels of silver. I'm so sorry, the old woman said while crying. Does Lu Yuanwei not treat your daughter well? Yunjioga asked again. That Lu Yuanwei is not a local. 8 years ago, he brought his 2 newborn sons to Joshi town. Not long after, he married the daughter of a small family in town. That family's daughter died not long after the wedding. I heard that her corpse was eaten by a wild beast. Half a year later, Lu Yuanwei married a new wife, but she also died not long after. It was said that she fell into the mountains and her corpse disappeared. The people in town said that he was a wife killer, and no good family was willing to marry their daughter to him. He went to the poor families in the village to buy their daughters, and married 5 more in a row. All of them died, and their corpses could not be found. My daughter, Lotus, was the 8th. I was afraid that she would also die if she married him. The old woman cried pitifully. Since you know that Lu Yuanwei is not a good person, why did you still marry your daughter to him? A person who pushed his daughter into a pit of fire for 10 taels of silver was not worthy of sympathy. I didn't know it was like this at the time. I only heard about it from the peddler later. I quickly took the remaining 5 taels of silver and wanted to bring my daughter back. I could return the money later, but the 5 taels of silver were stolen by the robbers. Without money, Lu Yuanwei refused to let my daughter go. My daughter resented me and didn't even want to see him. What a sin! The old woman cried even harder. Your daughter didn't want to come back. Could it be that Lu Yuanwei used your life to threaten her? This was a trick that bad people often used. That must be the case. Young master, I see that you are kind. Please save my daughter. The old woman knelt down and was about to beg. Auntie, don't be like this. Please get up. Yunjioga quickly supported the old woman and comforted her. I will go to town and help you, but I'm afraid that Lotus won't believe us. Do you have a keepsake for us? Yes. The old woman tremblingly took out a red headband from her patched pocket and said, This is what Lotus likes to wear before she gets married. She will believe you the moment she sees this. Yunjioga took the red rope and asked for directions to the town. He comforted the old woman and left her 10 taels of silver for her to treat her husband's illness. Little Gongzi is such a good person. The old lady was so moved that she took out a silver lotus hairpin and said, This is what my daughter gave me when I visited her last time. I don't need it now, so you can go back and give it to her. If she doesn't want to come back and wants to live with Lu Yuanwei, then let her think more about herself and save more money. It's all because I'm useless as a mother. I didn't even prepare a dowry for her. The aunt cried again as she spoke. Don't worry, auntie. I will deliver your message. Yunjioga took the silver hairpin and left Stone Village, heading towards town. It's just an illusion. You are quite serious. Zishang saw that Yunjioga looked like he was having a good time. That old woman is really worried about her daughter. As long as the feelings were real, even an illusion was worth helping. Where did you get the 10 taels of silver? Zishang asked. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to find change for the spiritual jade when I went to Thunder Country, so I prepared it. I still have a lot of gold and silver jewelry in my storage bag. Do you want to spend some? Yunjioga asked with a smile. Keep it to redeem your lotus. Zishang was obviously playing with Yunjioga. The two of them walked for a while and arrived at Joshi town. The town wasn't big, with only a few hundred households. It was called Joshi town because there was a small stream that flowed through the town and made 9 turns. Yunjioga found a small tea house. After ordering tea, he asked the skinny waiter about Lu Yuanwei. The waiter's situation was similar to the old woman's. Lu Yuanwei did have a reputation for cursing his wife. However, he was a very good person. He built bridges and paved roads. He gave money everywhere. He was a very kind person. Yunjioga asked about Lu Yuany's new wife, Lotus. The skinny waiter said that Lu Yuany loved his new wife very much. Not only did he often bring her out for meals, but he also bought the best clothes and jewelry. What's the point of asking them? We can just go and find her. Zishang really didn't blame Yunjioga for dilly-dallying. Then let's go now. Yunjioga brought Zishang to Lu Yuany's house. Lu Yuany was about 40 years old. He had a pale face and a kind face. He looked like a good person. When he found out that Yunjioga was Lotus' relative, he not only warmly received them, but also called Lotus out. Lotus was beautiful. She wore a brand new lotus-colored satin dress. She was so thin that a gust of wind could blow her away. When she saw the red headband that Yunjioga brought, she only said a few words. Mother worries too much. I'm living well here. My husband treats me very well too. Please tell her not to worry too much when you go back. Come on, what's so good about being so thin? Yunjioga believed that Lotus wouldn't have looked so skinny in the past. How could she do farm work without daring? However, when she saw Lu Yuany's smiling face, she didn't say much and could only say goodbye. As soon as they left, Yunjioga asked Zishang, "Did you see anything?" "I saw that this is all an illusion." Zishang looked bored. It seemed like it was all an illusion. What could he find? This illusion is definitely not that simple. Let's go and continue looking for clues. Yunjioga dragged Zishang around the town. After asking around, they found some clues. First, Lu Yuany brought back 2 babies 8 years ago. However, after 8 years, the people in town never saw Lu Yuany with the babies. Second, every wife of Lu Yuany had nightmares not long after they got married. They said that there was a big monster and 2 small monsters haunting them. The last point made Yunjioga feel strange. The people in town were all as thin as Lotus. This coincidence was too strange. This Lu Yuany is either a mountain spirit or a ghost. Yunjioga finally came to a conclusion after careful speculation. If we want him to show himself, we have to meet certain conditions. Zishang finally became a little more spirited. Let's go ask Lotus tonight. During the day, Lu Yuany was always by Lotus's side. Even if she had something to say, she didn't dare to say it. If she doesn't want to leave, just knock her out and take her away. In the end, Zishang still liked to use violence to solve problems. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.